It's Friday, April 18th, 2025. All right, everybody, we're doing our first attempt at this on Zoom. Now, of course, because I'm extraordinarily paranoid, I'm still recording it locally as well, so don't think I've completely lost my mind. But since Skype is going to be departing to whatever pit from whence it came in recent years, we have to have something else, and this is something I use anyway, so might as well just start using it. It does seem to work fairly well. We've tried it out a couple of times, so it does save a little bit of trouble in terms of Leno doesn't have to send me anything through Dropbox. It's all just kind of there. So we'll see until, Zoom decides to destroy their product somehow, as all companies eventually do. So when that day comes, then we'll have to switch to probably FaceTime or something else, assuming that Apple doesn't sabotage FaceTime by attaching it to an Apple One account that you have to subscribe to, or, whatever. Because eventually, life now is how many years until product X turns into a pile of dog poop? That's the world. Anyhow, one thing that's not going to change anytime soon is that if you'd like to support our show, and I know it won't change at least for the next year because I just renewed the domain, is you can go to supportourshow.com and you will find there an array of support methods by which you can help support the show in whatever way makes sense to you. We did get a listener email, so I will now read it. It is titled, Hollywood Stories, Leonard Nimoy Art Exhibit. Joe, I hope you are well. I am, thank you. Even while the world seems to be burning down around us in more than one way. Let's not start on that. Anyways, I really love the look back on the Star Trek movies. He's referring to the series that Doug and I are doing on all the original Star Trek films, all 6 plus Generations. So if you'd like to watch those, you can go over to the Patreon, and even on the free tier, you get the same access as anybody who pays. So you're welcome. Merry Christmas ahead of time and every other holiday in between. I will have to dust off my movies and go back and review. Everybody should also do that because those movies hold up much better than you would think. Even the bad ones, which probably are better than you think. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of interjecting into this email. I'm only like 3 sentences in. Anyhow, I'm not sure if I ever told you that I ran into Leonard Nimoy at a museum opening. You did not. Let's continue. I was at the MoMA downtown. This is LA. I know where this person is. And one of my friends is a famous artist, and one of the people... Oh, that's sweet, but I wouldn't describe myself that way. Anyway, one of my friends is a famous artist, and one of the people featured in the art exhibit... Oh, it wasn't me then. Anyways, there was one artist also featured named Paul McCarthy, and his exhibit consisted of things fucking other things. Oh, ooh, if I'd read this ahead of time, I would have looked this up. I'll let you do that in the background.
What's his name?
Yeah. Paul McCarthy. Yeah, I figured your spider senses would go right off on that one. Oh, wait, I've got a description for you. One scene was a very large exhibit of a forest of trees and a bunch of animatronic people fucking the trees. It was a sight to see would be an understatement. Anyway, as I was coming to the end of the exhibit, I see... Are you looking at this guy's stuff? Save it. Let me get to the end of this. Anyway, as I was coming to the end of the exhibit, I see Leonard Nimoy enter, and we both end up on one of the pieces by Paul McCarthy, where a dad is watching his son fucking an animal. Video inserted below. I have not watched that yet. Not the one we saw, but very similar. I'm now worried I click on that and go on to yet another list.
Oh, my God.
Then he looks up and looks at me and my wife and friend and says in his Spock voice, interesting. And we all had a chuckle. Anyways, thanks for the pullback on these movies. It's been a while since I have seen them. I'll have to have my son watch them with me.
Did he do the giant the butt plug in Europe? I think he did do the giant butt plug.
One last bit here before we
in Paris, the sex
celebrating.
toy-shaped sculpture in Paris. Sorry, go on.
Sensational. P.S. A great thing about Nimoy was that he supported a lot of the very interesting art by a lot of upcoming and daring art in Los Angeles. Another person that has been very supportive is Steve Martin. Thanks, Mike. Well, thank you, Mike, because now you've given Lando lots of things to laugh at for this particular show.
I mean,
I knew about Leonard Nimoy and art. I think Doug wasn't aware of how much Leonard Nimoy was into art and, actual, serious art and was a photographer.
If you just go to do the Google image search and just type in Paul McCarthy artist sex. and
Let's
you'll
start
see
with Paul McCarthy artist and see what happens.
No. You got to see what I saw. That's why. Paul McCarthy artist.
Don't forget, I don't use the same. Oh my God. What is that? Oh. Well, I'm getting a lot of things.
Did you get the pigs? Did you get the pigs?
Yes, is that George Bush? Is that George H.W. Bush? Two of them having sex with
it looks
a pile
like
of pigs?
that. Yeah.
I don't know. It looks like it. I don't know if it's supposed to be. Oh, there's a picture of the artist himself, and he looks like Phil Tippett. Okay, that
Honestly,
makes sense.
to me, he looks like an older Nick Nolte.
Well, yeah, or Santa Claus.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, these are evocative.
That's fun. I thought it was funny. Although,
Oh,
like
wow,
I said,
that's funny. He has a piece called Santa Longneck. I didn't even realize that when I said that. That's interesting. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. That's funny.
So they actually move. I didn't realize that. There's video of this.
Did you see the one of Snow White?
Yeah, I just saw that.
With the dwarf's head in her mouth?
Yeah. Wow, that thing's huge. You see this person in this for scale? Wait, is she vomiting them or is she eating them?
I have no idea.
Hold on, there's an article.
In or out, I have no idea.
Let's see. They may be computer designed and machine carved, massive artworks in Paul McCarthy. Oh, the show is titled White Snow Wood Sculptures, Powerhouses of Psychosexual Energy and All Too Human Identity Meltdown. They're dynamic, they're disorienting, and they're huge fun. Literally. Okay, I like this writer. Michael Upchurch. Good work. 70-year-old multimedia artist with a strong subversive streak. Oh, let's see. He had a controversy when his inflatable sculpture tree prompted attacks on the artwork and the author himself. Oh, he was slapped several times. The Vandal's problem. The tree resembled a butt plug. Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. It's in Paris. There's a really big version of it.
All right, let's see. Classic characters are fused into surreal... Oh, so there was a whole series just on Snow White. All right, the most astonishing piece may be W.S. White Snow and Prince on Horseback. Merger, transformation, mutation. Wow. It's tumultuous action. See, all these are animated, too. Shows fairy tale figures becoming multiple versions of themselves. As the horse surges forward, its single body sprouts 3 heads, 13 legs, while a length of Gothic cathedral column seems to have taken the place of its neck. White Snow herself, White Snow, okay, I almost thought I was reading it backwards, but I was because it's intentional, herself has a smaller head tucked under the chin of her primary head. Her prince, at torso level, is in scale with his beloved, but his cranium is almost as massive as the steed he's riding. Wow. In McCarthy's more subtly phallic W.S. erection, subtle in the title at least, the prince on horseback towers 12 feet high thanks to his 2 stacked heads. In the meantime, various incarnations of White Snow are either cradled in his arms or melting into the flanks of his horse.
Well, I have a video of the forest he did.
Yeah, I think they're all, from this, most of them are animated. Oh, man. Okay.
I can see the forest. I'm trying to get to the animated ones.
Well, this says cannibalistic appetite, so it does seem she's eating them, not
so she's
vomiting
eating
them. I mean, it does look like a sucking motion, but it could also be a vomiting motion. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Yeah, these are very funny.
Oh, yeah, look at there. Wow, these are weird as hell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, well, that's a way to start off. Man.
Yeah, I think it's great. Actually, you know what?
Well, Mike, I did not pre-read what you said. Therefore, all of these hijinks We're organic. I saved it.
I think that art is always supposed to push the envelope. But there is a point where it's like tasteful versus not. And this is the whole thing. Like, there's art that I hate, but the fact that I hate it means that there's still a strong response. You know, like even when I don't necessarily consider it art, I have taken this position of, and I always say this to my kids, it's like art is interpretive. So you may hate it, but it may not just be made for you. And it's the whole like, who's the guy who did the toilet? Just put the toilet out in the middle of like the...
Oh, wasn't that Duchamp who did the urinal?
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't like it, but I acknowledge the statement. There's a statement being made. But you know what? I don't give a shit about the statement. But that doesn't mean that it's not someone's art.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's I always my example is the LaHook image,
which
I always think is a riot. It is basically a reproduction. I mean, he basically took the Mona Lisa, if you literally look up, just search for LHOOQ. If you do that, it'll come up. It's all with dots on it, but it's also Duchamp. And in fact, maybe the urinal is somebody else and I'm mixing them up. Anyway, it's a picture of the Mona Lisa with a little French mustache.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen this one.
LHOOQ is short for some French phrase that basically comes out to she's got a great ass. And that's all he did. And I bring that up because I think not only does it sound funny to say LaHook, but the actual image and intent is very funny. So,
yeah.
You know.
I mean, this whole show has become kind of an interpretation of art to some degree.
That's true. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But speaking of which, I have lots of art to discuss. Mm-hmm. I'm actually pretty loaded.
Sorry. Hold on. I want to let me read the actual literal translation. She is hot in the arse.
In the arse.
Like
there you go.
I like that better. I mean, it's the same thing, but that's the literal.
Yeah.
Anyway,
literal translations are always more funny. Yeah.
It is. Ooh, what's a grammagram? I've never heard of this phrase before. A grammagram is a letter or group of letters which can be pronounced to form one or more words, such as in CU for see you. Oh, okay. Okay, got it. All right. Oh, so LHOOQ is essentially, if you say LaHook the right way, it's actually the French phrase. Oh, that's okay. I get it. That's clever. Sorry, go on.
No, that's cool. So other than other reviews that are going to happen with Joe and both of us, I've got a movie review, a book review, and a graphic novel review all in one.
Do them in reverse order.
What do you mean do...
Oh, no. Oh, you know what? No, actually, we'll do the movie, then the book, then the graphic novel, and then we'll do our movie stuff at the end. Yeah.
Okay, so book, graphic novel, movie. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So none of these are going to be very, very long. Well, actually, the graphic novel one might be because I'm pretty pissed off about that. But anyway, I recently went back to a series that I finished a while ago, and so I've talked about. I'd love to find out this woman's name is properly pronounced, but it's C.J. Cher, and it's spelled Cherryh. How would you pronounce that?
Spelled again?
Cherryh.
Yeah.
Rerryh.
I would say Sherrier, but it's probably wrong.
Sherry or whatever, right? Maybe?
Well, I was just about to say, why don't you go to that website that tells you?
Okay, hold on.
Let me find it. I think it's called How Do You Pronounce or something like that.
Oh, you're ahead of me then. Go ahead.
How to Pronounce.
Nice.
C-H-E. Is that for names, though? Let me make sure. I believe there is one for names. Learn how to pronounce. Here it is. Okay, yeah. So, all right. Spell again. C-H-E.
Cherryh.
Yeah. Oh, H. Oh, sorry. Then no, that would not be it. Let me see. Here we go. Oh, hey, her name came up. Let's see. All right. So that means somebody must have actually. Let me do this. Oh, just Cherry. Just leave the H off.
Oh, is it really Cherry? CJ Cherry?
Here, I'll say the same thing I said. I looked at. Okay.
Son of a bitch. For years, I thought it was pronounced like Sherry or... Oh, motherfucker. Look at that.
I thought there was another R on the end, so that's why I said Sherrier. But if not, then that does make some sense.
Cherry. Motherfucking Cherry. Okay.
Now, asterisk. This website is not always correct. So it is possible
Okay, you know what?
it's wrong, but it makes
that's
sense.
fine because I was calling her Sherry or Cher. I think it was either Sherry or Cher or whatever because of the YH. The YH word. It kind of loads it up for me. So you know what? We'll just call her CJ Sherry for the rest of this, right? That's fine. So years ago, I read a trilogy by CJ Sherry called the Foreigner series, right? Now, I knew that there was a ton of these, but I read the first trilogy and then I kind of walked away. And I didn't walk away because I didn't like it. I love the series. But I walked away because I had other stuff I wanted to read. And then I got into this Piccadilly where sometimes you own books from a series, so you refuse to buy the books again, but then you lose them. And you can't find them in your bookshelf. Now, you don't have this problem because you're digital. But I have this problem because I have like 3 bookshelves of backlogs of books that I've bought over the last 30 years, right? So I knew I had these, and I wouldn't buy them more, but I knew I had them and I wanted to read them. And it just so happens the other day, I found one and checked it, and it happened to be so she does basically, it's the same series, but she does these little like mini trilogies within the series. It was the beginning of the next trilogy, and I was like, oh fuck, I should read this. Now, have you ever heard of the Foreigner series? Do you remember the Foreigner series?
No. The name rings a very, very far off bell, like across a lake. But
yeah,
no.
I'll sum it up real quick. So, a colony ship ends up at a planet that has some sort of indigenous life. They leave a whole bunch of people at a space station there. Colony ship leaves. Space station people are there for a while, realize that they don't really have the resources in the space station, so they decide to go down to the planet. When they get down to the planet, there is indigenous life, and it's these... What's very funny is that I sometimes wonder if James Cameron read this, because there are these people that when you read their description, they sound like the aliens from Avatar, but they are black versions with like very, very dark black skin with like gold eyes. And I don't think they have tails, but they are always described as being very cat-like and very tall. So if you imagine the aliens from Avatar without the tails, all black with like kind of gold eyes, that's the aliens from this world. And what ended up happening was, it turns out that though they are humanoid, their species is very different from the humans, and there was a big war. And rather than wipe each other out, they're called the Atevi. The Atevi and the humans came to this agreement. The humans would live on an island, which honestly, in my mind, I forget how big it's supposed to be, but I always, in my mind, imagine that it's like the size of Australia. And the Atevi get the rest of the planet because it's their planet. And the deal they make is that only one human is allowed to leave the island of humans, and he has to slowly disseminate the advanced technology of the humans to the Atevi, and that is the agreement. And if they do it that way, then the humans are happy, the Atevi are happy, and peace is kept, and there's no war, right? And the thing is, all of this is summed up in like the introduction of the first book. So when the book starts, you're basically dealing with the one guy whose name is Bren Cameron, who I think he was a dictionary translator or something like that. That's where he started out, and the end somehow ended up in this position. And basically, he lives among the Atevi, and his whole job is to know their language and understand them, and slowly disseminate the technology that humans have. This is an advanced spacefaring humans, except the humans themselves have somewhat lost their technology because, they're essentially colonists. They left most of their advanced technology up on the space station, right? So they have like written records, but they themselves don't even know how to build some of this stuff, nor do they have the resources. And what was really cool about the first trilogy is the idea that we always want something to be alien, and we're like, oh, it's an alien, like the xenomorphs. Oh, they're so alien to us, right? But what CJ Sherry did was she thought, how much can I remove from what is considered to be a human psyche until it becomes something alien? That's always the way I thought about it. So in the original trilogy, what you discover is that the Atevi are a species that are very numerically alert. They're very good with numbers. They very much believe in numbers that are like, I vaguely think this is a Chinese system where there's certain numbers that are more lucky than other numbers. And on top of that, they don't really have any word for love or friend. They have loyalty and they have unions, but there's no word for love or friend. And there's a king, but there are also many lords, so it's not like the king can't be deposed. And what kind of keeps the peace is essentially they have this thing called the Assassin's Guild. And the Assassin's Guild act as security for everybody, and they take it very seriously. But anybody can take a hit out on anybody else, even the king. And then it's your assassin versus whoever it is as security. And that's kind of how they keep things fair, is that anybody can take a shot at anybody else. And furthermore, if it doesn't stop you from then taking out a hit on the person who took a hit out on you. So it's a very sort of like politely murderous culture. Will that make any sense to you? And by the time you start reading the books, they are very Victorian. So their culture, the way they dress, it comes off. I mean, honestly, other people can envision it very differently, but the way I always see it in my head, it's almost like a sci-fi Victorian culture. And it's really interesting to me. I love it because it's this very sort of what was that show? You remember the spy Sandbaggers? Remember the Sandbaggers?
Oh,
where
yeah.
you had all this shit going on, but it was always happening in a series of like smoky rooms, and there was so much like kind of espionage and tension. A lot of these books are that way, where like you don't really get big set pieces, you get a lot of tension. You get a lot of fear and unknowing. And the first book, which is called Foreigner, is all about how somebody takes an assassin hit out on Bren Cameron. And everyone's sitting there going, well, what does that mean? Like, if they kill the translator, I was like, what does that mean to the humans? I was like, is that a declaration of war? And Bren Cameron works directly for the king. But all the king can do is basically like kind of swath him in security, right? But otherwise he can't stop it. So it's a really interesting, the first series, which concludes with the colony ship that dropped the humans off in the first place coming back towards the end of the third book, and basically dropping a representative onto the planet because they don't have the technology. They have this big colony ship, but they no longer have air to ground vessels. So the colony ship has no way of sending anyone down to the surface of the Earth, other than basically like dropping them with parachutes. It's interesting, like the way cultures lose technology over like long periods of time. And these colony ships are said to be like several hundred years old. The humans have been on this planet, on the Atevi planet, now for 200 years. So the original space station humans that came down, their culture has been there for 200 years. They've gone native, right? And they are at kind of this quiet peace with the Atevi. But like I said, at the end of the third book, the Atevi, this colony ship comes back and basically sets politics spinning because everyone's like, what does this mean? And that's where I ended the trilogy. So this first book picks up where that book left off. It's about I think it's 3 years after that book, and it starts with basically the space, I guess the space representative, whose name is Jace. Him and Bren Cameron have essentially found a kind of strange alliance, since they're the only two humans living with the Atevi. They both speak the Atevi language. They understand it. They are trusted by them, and they both know that to keep the world from going to war, they need to negotiate a peace basically between the island humans, the spaceship humans, and the Atevi. But the Atevi have all the resources. The island humans have most of the manufacturing. But it's been 3 years now, and the Atevi now have computer access. They're now building computers. They build the first spaceship to go up to the space station. They're becoming as advanced as the humans that are on the planet. So it's kind of it's a jump from the last trilogy. But the Atevi are very numerically inclined, so science comes very naturally to them. But they're not. Don't think Vulcan or anything like that, because they're not supremely logical. If anything, they're massively paranoid. But yeah. So I just finished the first book in the new trilogy. It's called Precursor. I think she wrote 10 of these. I think there's like 3 or 4. Actually, no, there may even more. I think I read somewhere.
Okay, in the Foreigner series,
yeah,
there are.
Is there 22? Is that what it is?
22 main books and 2 short books.
Short stories, yeah. So
there's
so all of them.
I mean, apparently she's still writing them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
sure.
This
is labeled as Trilogy Arc 8, and that's the newest one.
Yeah, but everything is kind of broken up into trilogies, which I like.
Yeah, yes, the trilogy arcs. Yeah,
but what's fantastic about this book is that I didn't think she could get any more, any more sort of alien culture mashup. And in this, it's like not only are you dealing with the culture of the Atevi, but you're dealing with the culture of the island humans who've gone native, and this culture of these cloistered humans who've been on a ship for like the last 100 years, and what their culture is like. And it's almost like a commune where you have like an order of captains that gets handed down almost like from father to son or daughter. You've got the tech class, you've got kind of the underlings. Women are considered holy because, I mean, not religiously holy, but they're kind of venerated because they're the only ones who can give birth. And this colony ship originally came from Earth, but they are now lost. And I guess they left originally because they were trying to find another culture. And when this ship is returned now, it is returned because the planet it went off to, supposedly it was attacked by another alien species and has come back now because it needs help. So there's a lot of like kind of tension screwing the whole thing together. And the character of Brent Cameron finds out at the last minute that the Atevi King is sending him up to the space station. And the space station people, the ship people are now living partially on the space station, and they are trying to negotiate to have someone come up and work on the space station for them because they don't have the manpower. So there's a lot of sort of like weird economic tension that's mixed in this, which doesn't sound interesting, but is very interesting because it's the idea of how do alternate species get involved and how do they work together and how do they trust each other. And the thing is, at the beginning of this book, nobody fucking trusts anybody. And it's incredibly fascinating how C.J. Sherry kind of like moves things around, and these different cultures are trying to understand each other and the conflict that comes out of it. And you have the people who are xenophobic and don't want to trust any aliens. You have the people who are willing to try something new. And the humans who've gone native, the island humans, realizing that at this point, they have more in common with the Atevi than these humans from this ship. So it's a really neat book. I would suggest someone start with this book. If you're interested in C.J. Sherry, start with Foreigner and then work your way up. But I like that at book 4, there's still weird and interesting shit going on. I never thought when I read the first book of this trilogy that they would be on a space station by the 4th book. I can't imagine how much further it's going to get. And there's implication that there's going to be some kind of interspace war with another alien species. You know, so like, and she handles this stuff so well because it's like, it doesn't get like, I worry like with Star Trek. You know, Star Trek just about every alien looks humanoid, and after a while you're like, well, I guess all aliens are
more
humanoid.
or less. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what they eventually said. They basically gave an in-lore explanation.
Yeah.
So
when I started reading this, I was worried that the aliens would just become more humanoid. But the thing is, she's managed to hold on to their alienness of culture, their alienness of thought, and that doesn't change. So it's like at one point in this particular book, so Brent Cameron by the end of the last trilogy is carrying on some kind of sexual relation with one of these aliens, and it's mainly because he doesn't have anybody else, and it's one of his security. And you know what? Honestly, she sounds kind of sexy. She's a giant black woman with gold eyes, who's very sort of cat-like. It sounds neat, but I love that she's very sparing in the description. So it leaves it up to you to kind of decide what the hell's going on. But what I love about it is that his mother very much frowns upon it because he's, colluding with aliens. And at one point he has this ex-girlfriend who's been like desperately trying to get back together with him, and he's like, this won't work. I was like, I live with the Atevi. He's like, I'm never here. And the security guard woman, she kind of hears about what's going on, and the main character, Bryn Cameron, is trying to explain to her that he's not with this woman anymore, that he has no love for her, because he's worried that the security guard will get jealous. But he's sitting there going, wait a minute. He goes, Atevi don't get jealous. He's like, they don't get jealous, nor do I know any way to translate other than to say that she's no longer in my loyalty, is how it literally translates. And the alien guard responds with basically, well, she is, because she's still friends with your mother, so she is still part of your loyalty. And he realizes that, there's these things that don't translate. And it gets to this idea is, what happens when you've got concepts that there are no words for? How do you communicate that to another culture where it's just an alien concept? So psychologically, I love these books. They are very brainy. There's a lot going on. My only worry for readers is if you're looking for something that's very actiony, this is not it. It's very psychological for about 75% of the way, and then she always has kind of like a culmination in the last 25%, which that idea will come into play later when we do one of our other reviews. But she really tightens the screws over the first 75% of the book until everything kind of gets set off. And with this book, this guy's on the space station and he's dealing with these captains. There's 4 captains, and the 4 captains don't agree with each other. They all have a certain watch of time period throughout the day and night. And as things steadily fall apart with these captains, they start randomly turning the power off on his part of the space station. They start worrying that they're going to just try to kill them. And the main character, Cameron, keeps saying they can't do that, because if they do that, they'll have a war on their hands that they can't win. And so it's all this stuff trying to figure out if how intelligent the people you're dealing with are. And, Cameron is essentially at this point a negotiator. So it's him trying to figure out how to negotiate a deal between 3 parties, whereas one of the parties, the name of the ship humans, don't understand the game that they're getting into. So they think they're used to being a ship guild. So they're used to being able to kind of throw their weight around. And what they don't realize is that their weight doesn't mean shit. So it's a very interesting book. You would probably enjoy this series. I think you would identify with the Atevi and the way that they see the world. But yeah, and the more the Atevi end up mixing with humans, it's just kind of like a cultural hilarity. This book has more human Atevi interaction than any of the other books, because Bryn Cameron has to come onto the ship, and Atevi don't travel without security. They will never go anywhere without security. It's kind of what keeps their culture. So the ship humans don't want, like, they don't want that many people on the space station yet. But it's like, well, the negotiator is not coming out with his full security people. And then it's like having his security people dealing with the security of the ship and the back and forth, and them not understanding each other, and even conceptually, where it's like, I guess Atevi don't smile. It's considered to be something that you only do in like kind of private with people that you know, and it's almost like disrespectful if you smile. But he has to keep reminding them. He's like, smile at the humans. He's like, they get nervous when you look at them this way. He's like, smile at them. And they're like, yeah, but it's insulting. And they're like, it isn't insulting to them. It's like each species trying to find a middle ground so that shots don't get fired. So, yes, it's a really good book. I really enjoyed it. C.J. Sherry is a great writer. And I will continue reading this series. And if you're looking for some very sort of psychological alien science fiction, the Foreigner series in general is very good. Yeah, I just wanted to, that's my short review. It's hard to, you can't really review the entirety of a book, can you? Because there's just so much to it.
It's not easy if the book has that type of depth. Let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah. And then it does. there's so much shit that's going on in this book.
Yeah.
Like, just the description
that makes
of
it tricky.
Space station life and, all these interactions and like, I'll tell you, this is a weird thing, but why does alien human sexual liaison seems so what's the word I'm looking for? There's something, it's not that it's wrong, but there's something very like I don't even know the word for it. There are these scenes where like it feels so awkward because especially like
Uncanny Valley like.
What's that?
Like an Uncanny Valley type of feeling?
Yeah,
like,
it's uncanny because like there's obvious when he starts to realize that the alien's guard has some kind of liking for him, it's such a weird thing because he can't tell, neither of them can tell what is truly going on with the other, right? And she is so much bigger than him. And even the way he describes them being together, it's like he's so much smaller. It's like a hobbit and a human having a relationship. Actually, it's probably more like a dwarf and a human having a relationship, which, they did try elf-human relations in the one Hobbit movie. But the way he describes her, where it's like, there's just something so awkward. And now in this book, it's been going on for a while. So it's become sort of more playful, but it's this idea that like, I don't know, it feels so strange. And it is the fact that the psychology is so alien. So it's like at one point he worries that she might actually have a partner and just not be telling him because she doesn't want to upset him. And he wonders if she's only having these kind of sexual relations with him because she's his security and she's supposed to take care of him. And he worries, he's like, wait a minute. He's like, is she just, like taking care of me? He's like, is that all it is? He's like, he's like, is this not an emotional thing at all? Is this just I need to make sure that he's, being taken care of, and then he discovers that the person that he thought she was with is actually her father. And he's like, oh, and he's like, why didn't you tell me? And she was like, why would I tell you? She's like, Atevia, very private. She's like, I told you when it became an issue. Now you know. And you're like, yeah, that's their culture. Like, so it's just weird shit like that. You have that going on along with like, interspecies negotiation and passive violence on a space station where all the Atevia are armed. And he keeps having to remind them, don't go shooting shit randomly. He's like, these walls aren't that thick. So anyway, good, fun science fiction. If you're looking for some good, fun science fiction, check out the Foreigner series. I'm going to continue reading them. That was my good review. You went the graphic novel now, right?
I was going to say, and now for something completely different.
Yeah, okay. So is it last week we did Wonder Woman Volume 1?
It was, yes.
Okay, so last week I did Wonder Woman Volume 1. And my review is basically that I felt that I shouldn't probably have paid as much as I did for it. I liked the concepts, but it felt...
Volume 1 appeared to be a very mixed bag, would be the overall impression.
I got to the end of Volume 2, and I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
The bottom of the bag was dog shit then.
Oh my God. So,
right.
Okay, I'm going to get into this in slight detail. But I want to start with the fact that I feel like...
I seriously doubt that statement will end up being true. Go on.
No. I want to start with the fact is I feel like they took it away from him. Right? Because it ends... the last section of this book basically kind of wraps up the original story from the first section of from part 1. And it's wrapped up in such a stupid way. It's like they turned to him and they were like, hey... we don't really want to get into these concepts anymore, so we want to just kind of wrap it up. And you're like, what? But nothing was solved. I mean, literally nothing. You never find out why the Amazon kicked the shit out of all those guys in that bar, right? You never meet her again, right? And so when we left our heroine, right? She was in a big trap, and she fought all these like supervillains that were basically made to kind of beat her down, right? And the Sovereign, who is the invisible king of America, was the one pulling the strings on her, right? And the question was, how is she going to deal with the Sovereign? So the first chapter of this next book has nothing to do with the story. And I think I mentioned this before. It's a chapter that's like out of timeline context where she's looking for, I think I told you, she's looking for a present with Superman at an intergalactic mall for Batman, right? It's a total tonal shift. They vaguely touch on some of the concepts of what's going on with basically, you know, the misogyny and the fact that all these people are against her, and her telling Superman that this is her fight, that he needs to kind of politely let her deal with it, right? But it is a total tonal shift. It really gives nothing to the larger story, right? And it's not bad. And if I read it as like a one-off, I would be happy. And I actually find that there's a few chapters in here that if I read them as one-offs, and just to be clear, this is Wonder Woman Volume 2 Sacrifice by Tom King. If there's a few chapters in here, if I read them on their own, I would enjoy them as one-offs. But packed into the larger story, I'm sitting there going, what the fuck is going on? Then we immediately cut from that to Wonder Woman being in some kind of mindfuck Stepford Wives situation. Where basically we're led to believe that after the fight in DC, where she got her ass kicked by her Sinister Six, right? She is now she has the lasso of lies. Basically, she's been caught by the Sovereign. She's in some kind of dungeon. She's had the lasso of lies wrapped around her, and he is trying to brainwash her into being a diminutive woman. That's the thick of it. Now, that particular sequence is very well done, because she keeps having these flashes of her. What's that?
Explain the dominion of woman?
Diminutive. A diminutive.
Oh, got it.
A
I thought there was like a new
diminutive woman.
supervillain group called the Dominion of Women or something.
No, a diminutive woman.
Just making sure I had it right. I got mixed up. I got tripped up.
Yeah, so she's like in a sundress, and she's baking for Steve Trevor, and Steve Trevor is kind of an asshole husband in this thing, and it's basically, and then she has these like flashes to reality. When she flashes back to reality, she's got the lasso of lies wrapped around her wrists, and she's like tied to a post, and she's all beaten up. And the Sovereign keeps basically saying, you know, I'm going to break you and you don't understand. He starts like really like quoting religious quotation at her about how women are weaker than men. And I mean, and it's very heavy shit. As a one-off chapter, it's very good writing. I like it. And she keeps going back into this, what do you call it? This fantasy where she's vacuuming and she's taking care of the house. But then she keeps having like a psychological twist that breaks her out, and she's like, fuck, what the hell am I doing? And she kind of comes out of it, and there's, you know, the Sovereign sitting there with the lasso and telling her what she should be doing and all this shit. And it just goes back and forth like that for a while, and eventually she gets the psychological power to break the lasso and break out of it, right? She breaks out of it. She wakes up. She's able to destroy the lasso of lies. She grabs the Sovereign by the neck, right? And then his men basically electroshock her to unconsciousness, right? As a one-off issue, I like it. It's well done. He's trying to break her. She's kind of slowly getting, you know, sucked into this mind state of thinking that she's a little housewife who listens to her husband, and then it's her Amazonian side trying to break out of it. It's good. I enjoy it. Completely different fucking tone from the previous chapter, right? So this inconsistency, by the way, is one of the things that kills me in this book, right? So now the next section is basically that she has been locked in a dungeon. Now, I'm on the fence about this chapter, because it goes on too long. She's locked in a basement, and basically the Sovereign realized that he couldn't beat her by brainwashing her, so now he's going to try and essentially starve her and keep her isolated to see if he can, by leaving her in isolation, he can break her, right? And she keeps having these kind of like dream delusions that she's in various different places with Steve Trevor, and they're talking about the fact that she's doing very poorly, she's falling apart. But the thing is, rarely do you actually see the dungeon that she's in. Rarely do you get any concept of the fact that she may actually be in any danger, other than the fact that she, sometimes says to Steve Trevor, I think I'm really hungry now. I ate a rat the other day. I'm so beaten up. But, like, you don't get, like, a touchstone to reality, because you keep just jumping from one scene to another. So at one point she's in Paris, and now she's standing on a meteor, and she's talking to Steve Trevor, and now they're doing martial arts together, and now she's at a dance, and now they're sitting on the steps of, like, the Justice League manor, and the whole time she's talking as Steve Trevor keeps showing up to her, and he's basically what she's using to try and get through this, right? But again, it just goes from one fantasy to the next, and you never get the opportunity to really get a sense of what's going on to her. And in the beginning, I liked it. I thought it was a good kind of tool, but by the end of the chapter, they just keep doing it over and over and over and over. And the first time you finally see her in the dungeon that she's in is when the sovereign opens the door and says, have we broken you yet? And she says something along the lines of, what's next to him? As in, you haven't broken me, fuck you. But you're sitting there going, okay, it's a neat tool, but they use it over. It goes through the whole chapter. And I like the concepts of it. But when you compare it to the chapter before that was so strong, and then you do this chapter, it feels so kind of like ham-handedly overdone. And even though the concepts are still interesting, like, if this had been the weakest chapter in the book, I would have let it go. Unfortunately, it's not. Because then we launch into a comedic sequence of three of Wonder Woman's, how do you call them? They're not underlings. It's like Donna Troy and young Wonder Woman, and basically like her Robins.
Yeah, I don't know what they're supposed to be called. I know one of them was originally supposed to replace her. Yeah. And then I don't know where the other ones came from, so that must be more modern, or I just didn't read enough Wonder Woman, I guess.
Yeah, well, neither do I. I read this because I like Tom King. And I think Wonder Woman's a neat character when she's done right. So we cut from that chapter to a section where her three underlings are trying to find her invisible plane on a runway. And eventually, one of them walks into it. And they're like, oh, we found it. And then they're trying to figure out how to turn it on, even though it's invisible. And the whole thing is played for laughs. Like, now you understand that they're trying to rescue Wonder Woman. But the whole thing is kind of played to be funny. And I'm kind of like, is there time for funny? Like, is this slapstick really, it doesn't work with the tone of the other stuff. And the rest of that chapter is that they drop her off. Wonder Woman gets dropped on an island in the middle of nowhere. She's got no food. She's super hungry, and she realizes that she's on the island with, what's her name? Is it Tigress? Yeah, Tigress is the one.
Tigra?
Yeah, is it Tigra or Tigress?
Well, Cheetah is her main villain. No, I think you're talking.
Yeah, it's not Cheetah. Cheetah is
no, it's Cheetah.
Is it Cheetah? Hold on, I'm looking.
It's not Cheetah. Is because she was the villain in the 1984 movie or whatever.
So she's on the island with Cheetah, right? And what she realizes that earlier on, the in one of the previous chapters, the king guy basically said that he had tried to bring Cheetah into this, and I thought that she was going to be used in the big fight, which she never is. And what you find out is the king basically abducted her, stuck her on this desert island, and left her there to starve. So that when Wonder Woman gets there, Cheetah's gone like full feral. She's hungry as shit, and she's gone full feral. And so as Wonder Woman shows up, the two of them just start beating the shit out of each other. And the whole chapter is just this big action sequence where you've got the comedic Wonder Twins trying to figure out how to use the ship and get to her, and then Wonder Woman fighting Cheetah over and over again, right? And then as Cheetah seems to get kind of the jump on her, which I do not believe that Cheetah could ever get the jump on Wonder Woman. She threw the Washington Monument. The fact that she hasn't taken Cheetah's head off in 1 second amazes me. This goes back to the whole inconsistency of Wonder Woman's power. You know, this is like if Batman and Superman really had a fight, Batman would just pull his head off. But Wonder Woman basically beats her with love. By basically saying to her, I could beat you, but I'm not going to beat you because I realize that you're just a victim, as much of a victim here as I am. Which is true, right? At which point, Cheetah gives up and realizes, shit, yeah, we're right. We've both been fucked. We're both stuck on this island. And she doesn't really want to kill Wonder Woman. She's just so goddamn hungry. And like I said, some of the concepts here, I don't mind, but it's a weak chapter. And then Wonder Woman basically comes out and says, I knew the Sovereign was going to abduct you, and I knew this was the only way that I was going to be able to save you from this. And I'm like, wait, what? At no point was that alluded to in any way, shape, or form, right? Like, this very much feels like a writer trying to write themselves out of a corner by making their I always hate this in mystery novels. Sometimes you get where the detective comes to some kind of conclusion, and he's like, well, of course I knew. And you always look there and you go, really, you knew that? Like, I think the author just kind of did that because they figured it out themselves at the last minute. There's no foreshadowing. She never refers to it. She never says something like, well, I hope Cheetah doesn't get involved. No fucking mention. All of a sudden, Wonder Woman's like, well, I knew they were going to do this, and this was the only way to protect you. At which point, the Wonder triplets show up with the magic invisible plane, and they free them, and they get Cheetah and Wonder Woman on the plane, and that's the end of the chapter. And there are parts of it that are fascinating. Like, the relationship between Cheetah and Wonder Woman is interesting, because it's almost like a, I don't want to say it's a Batman Joker thing, but it's almost like a Batman Joker thing, where it's like, you know, if you had a storyline where Batman and Joker were left on an island to survive, and at the last minute, Joker had the ability to kill Batman and didn't because he realized that he needed Batman. You know what I mean? And I think versions of that story have been told, and maybe this is just their attempt to tell a Wonder Woman version of this, but it almost feels rushed. And the fact that you've got this whole comedy going on with the Wonder triplets figuring out the plane, it just kind of throws it off. And then to have that conclusion where she's like, well, I knew that the Sovereign was going to capture you and I had to save you. It's like, no, you didn't. You didn't. I was like, that somebody made that shit up after the fact. Yeah. At which point, the whole book takes a total fucking turn. Now, I don't know what happened in the DC universe, and maybe this is the problem with reading a mainstream DC book, but some sort of fucking world event happened where I guess Waller from the Suicide Squad built droids to steal all of the superheroes' powers. And the Wonder Woman story gets completely derailed by the fact that there are now robots that are stealing everyone's powers. That's it. We've turned to this. And it goes with her playing cards with, like, John Constantine and the Shazam and what do you call the female Shazam? Is that Marvel Girl?
Mary Marvel.
Mary Marvel. So it's Mary Marvel and Shazam, and they're all playing cards with a monkey that looks like Sherlock Holmes, and then all of a sudden a robot shows up and starts swallowing their...
that's Detective Chimp.
Oh, there you go, Detective Chimp. I haven't really had a lot of experience with Detective Chimp.
Yeah.
The Spectre's there as well. And this droid shows up that can suck their powers in, and there's a big fight, and it starts sucking people's powers up, and Wonder Woman realizes that they need to stop this thing, and it completely takes off in this other direction. And the story itself is a whole chapter of kind of mindless action, where as a reader, I was reading it going, what the hell's going on? Like, how did we get here? Like, did I miss something? Yes, I obviously missed a ton of shit that apparently happened that ties this all together. But it's like I jumped from one event completely over to a different event that are, like, vaguely connected. Maybe Waller was doing something with the American King guy, but I don't know. I just know that Waller is stealing superheroes' powers and putting them in a prison. And that's this whole chapter. This whole chapter is basically her trying to keep Shazam and Spectre from losing their powers. And then Wonder Woman realizing that she needs to find the prison where everyone's being held, right? Now, it's a total left turn. Like, there's still some vague lines in there, but like the original story's gone. The misogyny's gone. The American misogyny versus Wonder Woman, totally gone. Right? And now we get to the weakest part of the fucking book. Weaker than it already has been before, which is essentially we get a whole chapter of Wonder Woman and Damian Wayne, right? Who, I don't know why they're together. There's no real explanation for it. Like, I don't know where Batman is. I don't know where anybody is. But it's Wonder Woman and Damian Wayne, and they're trying to convince Captain Boomerang to tell them where Waller's secret prison is. Right? And the whole chapter is them basically handing him back and forth, with Wonder Woman trying to prove that, appealing to Captain Boomerang's better nature, and Damian Wayne being like, no, you got to beat the shit out of them and scare them, because that's what Batman says. And going back and forth between the two of them, right? Until they both essentially fail, and Captain Boomerang basically blurts out the location of it while he's telling them all the reasons why he's not going to tell them where it is. So it's like it turns into like a weird slapstick comedy where literally the villain goes, well, I'm not going to tell you where her secret prison in Florida is, over or off of, Highway 1 on exit 42. I'm never going to tell you that. And I'm like, what? Like, when did the writing get this dumb? That's the whole chapter. It's just them going back and forth. And then the chapter after that is them going to the actual base where all the heroes are being held. Steve Trevor shows up, and I think you said at one point that Steve Trevor is like some kind of hero now, like a Captain America style thing, where he's got like two guns.
Well, I saw images of him as some kind of superhero type, but I don't know when it was from. It could have been in the 80s, 90s.
Well, in this, he's pretty super in this book. So it's Steve Trevor, Wonder Woman, and Damian Wayne, and they're attacking this base to get the heroes out. And Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman can't keep their hands off each other, and they're like making out on the roof before they're about to like jump through the wall and attack the bad guys. And Damian Wayne keeps looking over, and he's like, "Oh God!" And like it's this situation where like your aunt is making out with her boyfriend in front of you, right? Like. At which point, they storm the base, they go in, they free the heroes, and Damian Wayne basically says to Wonder Woman, you should probably have kids. I think you'd be a really great mom. He's like, I kind of sometimes wish that you were my mom, which is something that was said in the previous volume, right? And all the heroes get away, and they save the day. They stop Waller from I mean, there's nothing in there about giving the heroes their powers back. They just stop Waller from keeping them all captured, and they help them escape. Right? No reference to the larger story here. Now, if it had stopped there, I would have only been so annoyed. But then they found a way to take it all the way, which is that the last little section, the art turns, first off, the art falls off a cliff. Now, I'm very sad to say that because the woman, Danielle Sampre, who does most of the art, she's very good. She's very good. I think I said her art is very clean. It's a little generic, but it's not bad. But in the last section, who did the art on this? Does it say? Carrie Randolph. Okay, so Carrie Randolph, Khary, does the art in the last section. And it's not great. It's not, I mean, if I could draw like this, I'd be happy with myself because I don't really have very good drawing skills. But compared to Danielle Sampere, it is so night and day. It feels like they had to rush the last issue in, and Danielle Sampere, whatever how you pronounce her name, she was busy, right? So the art falls off a cliff, and then the story is literally the previous issue that you just read, except told from the point of view of Damian Wayne, if he were a huge asshole. So he tells the whole story over again, as if everything happened because he was so awesome, right? And then it concludes with essentially him saying that, Wonder Woman would be a really great mom, and that the reason she probably had kids is because he told her she should. And then it ends back at where it was in the first volume, with Damian Wayne as Batman in the bad trench coat suit, with the Robin, with the new Superman and the new Wonder Woman. And he says to Wonder Woman, he goes, and that's the story of how your mom came to have you, and how you came to be, the new Wonder Woman. And that's the end. That is the conclusion of the story. And I was like, no, that's not the conclusion of the story. It's like, what the fuck happened to this book? And before I continue, I would like your point of view. Based on this description, how do you think things are going?
Well, I think I said this in the first book review, that it's very hard to juggle tones like this. This is the problem with doing things. And there's books I've read that have done versions of this. For example, what you're talking about, where she's locked in the psychological torture room, right?
Yeah.
Now, you could use that as him messing with her by having her remember something funny, but then there's something off about it that makes her, snaps her back because she realized,
and that section that section's not bad at all. Like I think that.
No,
that
but what
section...
I'm saying is, if you're going to have this much tonal divergence, you're going to have to frame the whole thing within that architecture. Otherwise, why is this book whipsawing around? What is the goal?
Because it goes from some psychological intensity to like almost slapstick comedy.
You'd almost have to end it where you find out that, in fact, she has a fractured skull because a Mongol smashed her head against the pavement. And so the reason that all these things are so weirdly out of sync and even the art styles change is because she's suffering brain death and they're desperately trying to stop her from dying.
Oh, Jesus. If there had been some kind of huge, clever twist to it all, I would have appreciated that. But it wasn't.
Yeah, that's
more so.
So without that, it feels like it's just a blender of nothing.
It feels like he was trying to tell a very interesting story about misogyny in modern America and Wonder Woman, right? And about halfway through, DC was like, stop it and bring this to an end. And he did. And that's what it feels like, because the last issue basically...
It could be that simple. It's not it's out of the realm of things that have happened.
And first off, it takes that total left turn where all of a sudden, no, it's not the Sovereign anymore. It's Waller, and she's stealing. It goes from being kind of interesting ideas to being a generic DC world event story. And then at the end of that, they just cap on the whole. Oh, and by the way, that's where Wonder Woman 2, whatever, the new Wonder Woman from the future. This is why she had you as a baby. Let's just forget all the Sovereign shit and all the other stuff. Like, this concludes it. And that's the thing, is that because it has that bookend, that is the bookend. That is the conclusion of the story, because you have an issue. The first chapter basically has that element of the young Wonder Woman and the new Superman and the new Batman going to this prison to talk to the Sovereign to find out about the details of this basically young Wonder Woman's mother, who is the current Wonder Woman, and how she came to be. And then when you bookend it with Damian Wayne and all of them back on the beach and him going, and that's the story of your birth. Your mom and your dad couldn't keep their hands off each other, and I told her she should be a mom. And you're like, where did all the interesting shit go? When did this just turn into a generic fucking DC story? Like a bad, forgettable one. Actually, it's not forgettable because it's so irritating. I'll remember it as what not to do. And it's like, I know that Tom King is a better writer than this, because he has written some of my favorite books. And this isn't bad the way Frank Miller went bad. I loved Frank Miller growing up, but like, when you read, like, this is like The Dark Knight Strikes Again. You read The Dark Knight and it's a fork of art. You read The Dark Knight Strikes Again and you're like, what went wrong? How did somebody go like this? It's almost like he I was going to say something really mean. It's almost like he had psychological issues between doing one and then the other, right? Be nice. But like Dark Knight Strikes Again is an example of like how not to do a Batman book, whereas Dark Knight Returns is amazing, right? And I don't believe that is what's happening with Tom King here, because when he gets it right, he really gets it right. like I like there's stuff in here that I really like, and it almost hints at this story that I think he wanted to tell, but then the story gets derailed by either the world event or whatever other character needs to be shoved in here or whatever other, and you lose it. And I get to the end and I'm like, I don't think this is the story Tom King was trying to tell. I don't even think this should be collected like this. You know, either there's massive shit missing, or they just didn't want him to do it. I mean, you said at one point that it was very timely that he was doing this story now, right?
Well, yeah, because of the Sovereign, yeah.
Yeah. And I do wonder to some degree if DC told him to just switch gears. If they're like, no, this is not the Wonder Woman we want you to tell. So yeah, it sucked. I mean, I was so hoping, because you were like, just wait till it's done and see if it picks up. It not only did it not pick up, but it made Volume 1 look really good.
Oh, I guess that's not nothing.
I mean, Chapter 1 is at least cohesive. Like, you know, there I feel like there's gaps in there, but at least it feels like it's one story. Whereas Volume 2, I mean, that shit skips around so much that there's like I said, each chapter feels disconnected to some degree from the others. You know, and like I wouldn't be surprised if he had to speed up his time frame, or like I don't know. I wish there was a way I could find out more about this book, but it's almost like you'd need to understand the internal dynamics of DC. Like, let's see, why is this like this? Why did Tom King Wonder Woman go so wrong?
Are you asking ChatGPT?
I'm asking the internet. I'm curious to see if there's you know.
No answer.
Why? Oh, you know what? Apparently, it got a lot of backlash.
Oh.
I understand.
Backlash critically, or
I finally understand why Tom King's Wonder Woman is so divisive. It's not. It's not divisive. I want to like it. It just ends up bad.
Yeah.
I'm scanning through really quick to see what it is that people were irritated about.
My guess is a lot of them will be like you. Totally.
So this is from a website called comicbook.com, which is, I mean, I'm lucky to get that address. The biggest, yeah, I know, biggest one biggest one I've seen in online circles, including the Wonder Woman subreddit, is that the story isn't really about Wonder Woman because she's not the main character. In reality, the main character of King's run so far has been the Sovereign. The story is being told by the villain, and as such can't really get into Wonder Woman's reactions. We see them, yes. No one complains about Sam Pierre's evocative, detailed pencils, and the book has also gotten amazing fill-in artists like Guillermo March, Tony Daniels, and Bruno Redondo, maybe in Volume 1. And Wonder Woman does talk, despite what some complaints say, but we don't really get to see how she's holding up in a real way. You know what? I think I said that the fact that the villain is narrating this is already kind of like an interesting issue, because how is he to know exactly what's going on with Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a bit weird for a female-centric superhero title to be suborned by a male character. You know what? I wish that was my only problem with this. I can't deny that Wonder Woman is missing something vital from its equation. Yeah, is there anything else? I mean, you know, inconsistency. Yeah, many fans feel like King's storytelling. Oh, Jesus, the fucking ads moved it. King's storytelling style works better for limited series than it does ongoing ones like Batman and Wonder Woman. I agree. There is also the fact of a male writer writing about a feminine topic that doesn't stand right to some, which I understand. No, see, I don't have a problem with that. I think that Tom King has the imagination to kind of empathize and understand the idea. I mean, would it be better being written by a woman? Yes, but this is the whole Ghost in the Shell problem with Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson doesn't do Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell doesn't get made, right? Scarlett Johansson does do Ghost in the Shell. The money comes in, and the movie gets made, and it's 95% where it needs to be. Tom King, the name makes it so there's people who will read Wonder Woman who wouldn't normally read Wonder Woman, right? So I think that in that respect, it is good. And I have read Tom King's female characters in other books, and they're very good. Because I mean, if you read the Adam Strange story he did, and the Adam Strange book is half about Adam Strange, but it's half about his wife as well, and she's a very well done character in that book. But it's like none of, I mean, maybe these are the issues with like volume 1, but in volume 2, it just so completely goes off the rails. So I don't know. Oh my God. Wonder Woman is just destined to be a contentious masterpiece. No, it's not. Not at all. Maybe some of the issues, like the chapters themselves, will be kind of legendary in that respect. But as a cohesive 2-volume story, no, I think this is probably one of the worst put together This is probably the worst Tom King book I've read, and I haven't read the Rorschach one yet. So, but I actually heard that one was better. So, yeah, I was so let down.
Well, I guess that guy would contend otherwise. Therefore.
Yeah, he can. That's fine. I think it's some of the weakest Tom King work. And again, there are moments in there where you see really neat ideas and really neat concepts, and you get kind of like a little bit of the shade of what this story could have been. But it's so inconsistent. It's not cohesive. It's all over the fucking place. And I'll tell you, I read did he do Batman Reborn? Is that what he did? I didn't enjoy his Batman run, but I didn't enjoy it because it was a different kind of Batman for me. Like it wasn't my Batman, right? But it was still a hell of a lot more cohesive than this. Like the writing was okay. It was cohesive. There was a narrative. It all worked. I just wasn't a fan of his particular brand of Batman, which happens. This is the whole, some people want Ninja Batman, some people want Detective Batman, some people want, brawling bastard Batman. Some people want, the Batman who has a backup for the backup of his backup, right? But for Wonder Woman, it's like, it's not cohesive. It's just all over the place. So there's a part of me that would love... You're not going to, and I'm not asking you, but there's a part of me that would love for you to read this just to kind of let me know if I'm going crazy. And that's why I wanted to go section by section with you on this and find out if am I being too demanding of a story?
How long are these long?
Hold on, how many pages are there?
I mean, I'd be willing to read it just to give you a second opinion. I'm not against reading it.
No, they're about...
It didn't... The concept didn't really appeal to me, but that's not saying I wouldn't read it. Well, just if you want me to, I'm
I always like to give Tom King books a try because I think he's a really good writer.
I love Woman of Tomorrow, so that's
what it's called, Woman of Tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's what I mean is when he does these limited books where he's almost like he's left to kind of tell his whole story on his own ground. They come out fantastic. I mean, that's a great example. I'm glad you brought it up because the Supergirl book that he did, that's a female character. He did such a good job with that character, right? But with this, it's like I wanted him to do something like that with this character. And maybe the problem is it's hard to tell a cohesive story when you've got all the demands of the greater DC universe kicking the door down. Where it's like, hey, we know you want to tell this larger story, but we've got this world event with Waller, and we have all this other stuff we need you to do with this character. So you're going to have to stop telling your story, and we need you to tell our story. I mean, I used to get this with Wolverine, too, where, like, you'd start reading, like, if you read the Wolverine series, you'd read a few issues, and then there'd be, like, a little header that was like, to know what happened, or you'd get to the next issue and it'd be like completely different. You'd be like, what the fuck happened? It'd be like, to know what happened, read the world event, Wolverine fucks everybody, issues 12 through 66, and then you'll be like, oh, and then you'd have to go someplace else, and was it the Powers of X, House of X book that basically put all the different issues in numerical, in like story order so that you could read them intermixed with each other as they happen?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I believe that's correct. Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. I love when they actually take they do collections where they take all the titles from different series and they put them in kind of story arc order, so you have more context across. And maybe
what was the volume 1 called of this thing again? Remind me.
Volume 1 is called Outlaw. Wonder Woman
Okay.
Outlaw.
All right.
Yeah, and then the second one is called Wonder Woman Sacrifice.
Yeah, I found the second one pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I would say that there's probably 2 chapters that actually feel like they're part of the larger Tom King story in this. And then there's 2 chapters that are just kind of like offshot, miniature sort of interesting storylines. And then there's 2 chapters that just suck. Like the Superman story with her at the Intergalactic Mall with Superman, it has nothing to do with the larger story. It's a funny story. I enjoy it. I actually think that it's probably one of the most fun Superman Wonder Woman stories I've read. I mean, they end up going to get their nails done at one point, right? It's fun. It's a great story, but it has nothing to do with the grander story. And I think this is the thing where it's like, did DC step in and be like, dude, this is too dark. We need something else in here. Just throw an offshot story in there just to throw people off. Like it's that kind of thing. It's like, I really wonder at how much control he had over the order of things, because the Superman story is a complete sidestep. And you're sitting there going, okay, Wonder Woman just got the shit kicked out of her by all these villains, and they beat the hell out of her, and something's gonna happen. And now we're at a mall with Superman. Okay.
What the fuck is this first image in volume 1? It looks like she's giving birth.
What
That is a weird. You can read them online, so I was just kind of paging through the first volume, and the first image is her waking up in bed, but it looks like she's about to give birth to something.
I don't know what you're looking at here.
I'm looking at
because the first issue, the first image is her standing on a field while he's like helicopters.
This is volume 1 or volume 2?
Volume 1, Outlaw.
That's the one I'm looking at, according to this.
Is this part of the Dawn of DC run?
Wait, let me go back to page 1.
Yeah, because the first actual story page is the one I sent you of Superman, new Superman and new Batman on the beach, waiting for Trinity, which is the new Wonder Woman.
Oh, this says Fury finale. They've got the wrong one here.
Well, that's the other problem, is there's so many different fucking
God. Wow.
Iterations of the DC universe because they keep resetting the damn thing.
Well, whatever that's from, it is a weird image.
Yeah, and like they never conclude the murder of all the guys in the bar. They never deal with the whole politics of the Amazonians in America, and the fact that the Amazons and the US are like getting ready to go to war with each other. Like, I'm almost tempted not to buy, but to pick up volume 3 if there is a volume 3, and to see if they have like kind of the audacity to try and continue the story, because I'll be really pissed if they do that, because they've already bookended it with that the whole going back to the beach with the future Batman and future everybody, right? So are they then going to try to continue the storyline, or are they just done with that storyline? Are we never going to find out why the Amazonians were kicked out of the United States? Like, I mean, they fucking gunned down Amazons. It's like, yeah, it was, yeah. This book has made it so that I will no longer just buy a Tom King title. I will look at it in the bookstore. I'll give it a quick sort of glance over to make sure that there's at least some kind of consistency to the story. Because...
Oh, actually, what this gives you is a nice yardstick where you can look up reviews, and if they say, this will remind you of the Wonder Woman, you're like, all right, done. Thank you.
Yeah, and that line
this,
that guy said was
is a return to the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow type of storytelling. Oh, well, I'm interested now.
Yeah, the thing where the guy's like, is this destined to be a classic in the future? I'm like, no, I don't think so. Because it's so inconsistent.
Though. In fairness, if you say contentious masterpiece, it does allow for the fact that some people will hate it. I guarantee you, just like everything, there are people who probably think this is his best work.
And here's the thing, I don't hate it for him. I like his ideas, and I like his concept, and I feel that he didn't get to tell the story. I felt like he started a story, and then it never came to fruition. It just kind of wandered off. You know, this happens in TV shows sometimes, where a TV show starts out one way and then they start to get this sense that they need to go a different direction with it, and all of a sudden it's like stuff that was really important in the first 2-3 episodes are like, it's not a big thing. And you're like, really? You're like, I thought that was gonna be the big bad, and then you're like, oh no, it's nothing. We're changing gears. We're going in different directions. You know, it's like if Scorpius had turned out to be like a big pushover after the season finale. We were like, we want Scorpius to be, warm and cuddly. So, I'm giving it a bad review.
I think that was fairly obvious.
Giving it a bad review, and I'm irritated about it. You know?
I think that was fairly obvious.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time to read, so like when I read, I kind of want shit not to suck. And you know what's worse than outright sucking? Is having something with glimmers of genius be mostly
Wasted
shit.
Potential.
Yeah. So you're sitting there going, and because I've read so much of Tom King, it's the whole, I see glints of what this should be. I see glints of what a Tom King story this could have been, and it's just getting hosed down by being part of the larger universe. You know, and I think it's that whole. This happened on Authority sometimes, where Frank quietly just moved too slow for the publisher, so they would bring somebody else to do like certain sections of the book or like an issue or something like that, and the art would just completely shift gears, and you'd just be like, whoa. This was really beautiful like a page ago. What the hell happened? And I understand why they do this. They have to have backup artists ready for when like the main talent just can't keep up with the pace. But it kind of shows the whole the money kind of cracking the whip on art, and I hate that because they never seem to get somebody. Like, it's one thing if you're reading like a Mike Mignola, but who's the guy who took over for Mike Mignola? I can't remember his name.
Oh,
but
the guy who did like BPRD?
Yeah, he's the guy who draws a lot like
League
him.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen guy?
Yeah. And the thing is...
Oh, no, yeah.
If Mike Mignola couldn't finish a book and they brought that guy in to finish the book, you'd be like, that makes total sense. These guys are so close to how each other's style or I mean, it's different, but it's very similar. But like, I'm telling you, the person they bring in to finish the last chapter of the Outlaw book is so far away from Danielle St. Pierre. They said that Danielle St. Pierre has like really good pencil work. She does. It's fucking it looks great. And when it switches gears, they brought in somebody whose art style was so immensely different. You know what? I gotta take a picture of this. Is our connection still so bad that it'll take like forever for it to get to you?
It doesn't seem like it. So
I might actually get to you quickly.
I guess we'll find out.
Yes,
or you could send it via messages, I guess.
Oh God.
I guess. But no, try texting it. It works.
I'm gonna try.
All right.
Let's see if this.
Should I just paste into Zoom?
Should I send it to your normal one, or should I send it to the other one?
Send the other one.
I almost said it out loud like an idiot. It doesn't really matter. You can fucking. You can edit
send
it out anyway.
313-070-5534.
ilovecox.com. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
I want to send you.
Getstuffedtoday.org. AN.
Get stuffed today. That's great. I need another shot here.
Is that domain available? Let's take a look.
What Get Stuffed today?
I mean, I'm just curious.
You'd have to put a nice turkey recipe on that page.
Oh, and that's all it is? Just that? Yeah.
Okay.
Get stuffed today. Getstuffed.today is available.
Oh,
Getstuffed2.day is available. Getstuffedtoday.me is available.
Okay, I have sent you a typical Wonder Woman page with Danielle St. Pierre, and then with the other artist, so you can see the kind of leap. But yes, I hate when this happens. I always want stuff to be good, and then when it's not,
Oh, it came through. Here it is.
Oh, you see it? All right, check it out.
So the first one is the detailed
one. The one of just Wonder Woman is Danielle St. Pierre.
Oh, boy, that's different.
And then the other one is, I think it's
Yee.
who is that? That's geez, I just hit the mic. Who's the artist? Hold on.
Oh.
You see how different it is,
I mean, it's
right?
not bad, but boy, is it different.
That's Carrie Randolph.
Okay.
But you see how jarringly different it is.
Very different. Get
Yeah,
stuff
and
today. Dental. Ooh. Get stuff today. Giving. Well, you'll certainly be receiving. Let's see. Yes, it is. It is radically different. Get stuff today. Football.
What?
Can't believe all these. Get stuff today. Pizza. Well, that actually could work.
Oh wait, .pizza. So instead of .com,
Yeah.
.pizza.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's all there's all these what do you call it? Vanity domains. .tickets. Get stuff today. .tickets. $570 if you want that.
Your website should be pizza.pizza. Anyone can find that.
Somebody's got that.
Someone's got to have that, right? Pizza.pizza.
Get stuff today.car. $2,500.
I saw a car today that had the license plate BB8. And I was like, holy shit, how did you get that?
You pay a bunch of money.
Well, I know that, but still, the chances of being the first person to get it. Like, think about
no, that doesn't mean they're the first person. They might have jumped in when somebody's expired. They didn't realize it. It happens.
Oh, well, there's that, yeah.
All right, let's see if pizza.pizza is available.
I mean, as far as easy websites to remember. If you're like, check out my website, pizza.pizza.
Here we go. Pizza. Pizza.pizza is taken.
Wow, so someone has it. Okay.
Yeah. You can make an offer. Let's see. It will suggest how much. $30,000.
For pizza.pizza?
Well, that's a good, it's a good
one. Idea, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's not the worst one. Pizza.blog is listed for sale at $59,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wait, so this person owns the domain and they're willing to sell it to you?
They're cyber squatting on it and they want to see if they can get money for it.
Oh, so I got it now. Well, you know what? Let them sit on there.
Pizza.democrat and Pizza.republican are available for only $35 for whatever your particular side of the aisle is. So, Pizza.flowers is confusing and $175. Pizza.baby is $300. I mean,
I wonder if you can get vagina.pizza, because that sends mixed messages.
Pizza.sex, $120.
Wow, pizza.sex.
Right there. Yeah, for $120.
That's a website. Mm-hmm. You want that on your card, right? Hey, check out my website, pizza.sex.
Pizza.sex. Pizza.claims. For what business could this possibly be used? Were you burned by cheese at a restaurant where you requested room temperature pizza? Go to pizza.claims and we will represent you. No fee unless we settle your case for money. Pizza.actor. There again. Is this a Spaceballs joke website?
I'm supposed to do my movie review now.
Yeah.
Just remember that. So Joe and I watched the movie together, right? But before I watched that movie with Joe, I watched another movie, and I'm mentioning this because I want Joe to understand what whiplash I had.
Oh, all right.
So I watched the movie. Was it The Electric State with Chris Pratt?
God, one of the worst reviewed films of modern memory.
Is it really?
Excellent.
They said that's a weird flick.
Number one, it jettisoned everything that people wanted from the book series.
Oh, yes. I read that the books were completely different.
Yeah, I have a couple of them.
Aren't they just art? Aren't they just art books that?
Well, they are, but they have storytelling pages as well. Okay. So there is a story to it. Yeah, but it's very dark. It's very.
Yeah, well, it's very Russo brothers.
Well, the one you watched certainly is.
Well, yes, the one I watched. Yeah, that's what I'm
saying.
reviewing.
The books are not.
Oh no, the books I've read are almost more pastoral in a weird way. Like
a lot of it is left for you to fill in, but there is also a story to it as the book goes, and it's nothing like what the movie is.
No, From what I've read, I haven't watched incredibly strange because, I mean, first off, their voice cast is insane. There's all sorts of fucking weird people popping up.
What's his Matt Berry in there somewhere?
Well, I don't know Matt Berry, but Woody Harrelson is like Mr. Peanut.
No, it's not Matt Berry. Sorry.
Cox is in there as
Tucci, Alan Tudyk, Holly Hunter.
Alan Tudyk is once again in a role that has no actual Oh no, he does the one-liners from one of the robots. That's what he does. But
Here's
yeah,
a
Alan
review. How did
Tudyk.
this movie cost $320 million?
Yeah, it's also one of these fucking astronomically expensive movies.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, honestly, I understand why. Because there's really only three real people in this movie. Like, only three real people who matter, which is Stanley Tucci, the bad guy, and then, like, underlings that he talks to.
Oh, somebody says it's Ready Player One if you ordered it from Temu.
Okay, so the connection to Ready Player One is tremendous. But it's weird because, normally I say to you, there's movies that really are meant for kids, right? And kids will enjoy them and parents wouldn't really enjoy them, and that makes sense, right? This movie feels to me like it is intended for kids. Very much, except then it drops in this occasional really dark shit. So the movie starts with essentially 11, because that's who it is, the actress who plays 11. 11 has a younger brother who's some kind of psychotic genius. Now, he's not psychotic, he's just really, really smart. But he's also, but he doesn't want to go to, there's a whole thing where he doesn't want to go to college. There's all kind of subtext. And then what basically happens is a war breaks out between the robot servants that apparently are everywhere, against the humans. And somewhere in the midst of this war going on, 11 and her brother, who are in a car with their parents, they hit a deer, and everyone dies except for 11, so she understands, right? And then when the story cuts forward, essentially what you realize that there's a company called Center that essentially created this technology that allows humans to remote into robotic bodies, and that changed the course of the war because now they didn't actually have to lose people. They could just basically, roll out more bodies, and people could remote into them and just fight the robots. And then that has now parlayed into this thing where people are just plugged in all the time, and they're plugged in, and there's some illusion in there about how you can separate your consciousness. So this part of you that's kind of present in your robotic body, but part of you is really just kind of like in a virtual beach, kind of sunning yourself, right? There's a lot of shit they play fast and loose with, which is weird. It made me want to read the books to understand if there's something more to this, or if this is just totally made up for the movies. But it gets very Ready Player One. But when the movie starts, the main character 11 is supposed to, like, I think she's like a high school senior, and she's on her like third foster family, who is played by is it not Tony Danza? What's his name from? No, from
not Tony Danza.
No, it's God, Seinfeld.
What's he from?
The short guy from Seinfeld. What's his name?
The guy from Jurassic Park?
No.
Wayne Knight?
He's one of the main guys, the short guy.
Oh, you mean Costanza?
Yeah, Costanza.
Oh
yes.
God, what's his name? It's Jason something, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember.
He's a balding guy, the short guy.
Yeah, he plays a greasy...
George Costanza is the character played by...
but that's what I remember him. I always remember him as George Costanza. No,
I know.
He plays basically like this greasy, like kind of sweaty, yucky foster dad who basically just fosters kids for the money. And he's just like, I didn't even recognize him at first. I was like, holy shit, this is a different role for him. Because you mostly just see his face on this robot. And then when he takes the helmet off, you realize who it is, and you're like, holy shit. But when the movie starts, she's literally living in this like third foster home. She hates everything. Everyone in school uses these Center helmets to do lessons. The teachers are robot. They all basically put their helmets on and go to the same place. So it's very Ready Player One if your main character hated paradise and didn't want anything to do with it. And that's the world that she lives in. And there's basically these giant Center towers everywhere because that's how they keep the signal going out. So everybody, can basically Wi-Fi into this. And the robots have the robots lost the war, and the surviving ones have all been put into this essentially an outlaw zone in kind of the middle of like the desert of the United States, where it's all walled in. It's very sort of King Kong. They have these huge gates, right? And this 11 basically is just sitting there one night being miserable, and a robot shows up and the robot looks like a cartoon character that her brother loved when he was alive. And the robot says to her, well, he can't talk. He can only use lines from the cartoon, which is this is Alan Tudyk's voice. And it tries to communicate to her that he's her brother, right? And at first she doesn't believe him, and then he does something that kind of makes her realize that maybe he is. And so, at which point they get into a fight with the foster dad, and the robot ends up knocking him out, and then she realizes, shit. Oh no, she knocks him out. She realizes that they gotta get out of there because, this is her. She's gonna end up in prison if she stays. And so her and the robot take off. And when they're leaving, there's a thing in there about how her foster dad has been buying secondhand musical instruments from the exclusion zone, from somebody who goes into the exclusion zone and basically finds all the things that people abandoned when they turned it into an exclusion zone, which is kind of illegal. And so she gets the address from one of the boxes and says, we'll go to this guy and he'll be able to find us a way into the exclusion zone, because the Cosmobot says that they have to go to the doctor. The doctor knows, and he's in the exclusion zone, right? And all of this is kind of an interesting setup. It's kind of a weird world. It feels very cartoony. But they play it like so Russo brothers grim. But then the second Chris Pratt shows up, Chris Pratt is almost like a cartoon character in this movie. He's got like a big, shaggy, almost mullet hairdo, and he's got this robot named Herm that the two of them are basically like a couple of wisecracking assholes, and they end up taking the girl into the exclusion zone with them, and they're being pursued by Giancarlo Esposito, who is basically a drone body with his face on this little screen. And I gotta tell you, Giancarlo Esposito's face on a drone body is actually quite scary. Like, that's one of the things in the movie I actually thought they got right. That when he's like stalking around with his face on this thing, I'm like, that's kind of scary. It's got some kind of weird, it was like black hole gun he's shooting and stuff. But then you get these weird elements where it's like, you know what? I'm not even going to tell you about the rest of the movie. I'm going to cut to the part that really matters. She discovers that her brother is alive, right? And that this company's center realized that so when her brother had the car accident, he was in a coma. And they realized that they could use his brain to run all their data through. That it was so powerful that it could process all the data they needed to make their environments seem real. Now, all of that is so outlandishly kind of bullshit, where it's like, wait, somehow this kid had more processing power than like all your computers, and you're somehow running all this technology through his head. Like, I don't understand it. And it's one of these, it's such a massive MacGuffin. Like, the kid is the MacGuffin, and somehow his brain makes this all work. And so his mind somehow leaked out of his body into a Cosmo body and escaped. And so the company wants his mind back, because otherwise their company is failing. And it's like, yeah, but it makes no sense whatsoever to me. like even science fiction wise, like, I love sci-fi, but I'm listening to this, I'm like, how does that make any sense though? Like, how are you running the entirety of your business through this kid's head? Like, it was such a poor explanation. So at the end of it, the girl kind of gets all these robots to help her attack the center main base where her brother is. And when she gets to her brother, she goes into a virtual so she can connect with him. And he basically says, hey, I want you to kill me. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's, I got to see some of the world as the Cosmobot, but I realized that me being part of this system is making everyone miserable. I don't want to do this anymore. He's like, I don't want to be stuck here. He's like, I need you to turn the life support off. Which is such a weird conclusion for what is pretty much a kid's movie. Like, literally, not 5 minutes before this scene, or 5 minutes after this scene, I think it was one of the Chris Pratt loses the robot he's been friends with, Herm, is this construction robot that he keeps climbing into bigger bodies. So basically he can climb into the head of a larger body and then take over it. And so he keeps getting bigger throughout the movie, and then towards the end of the end fight, they keep blowing up his body, so he keeps crawling out and getting smaller and smaller like a Russian doll. And then you think he's dead, and then the little head pops open and there's like a little mini version of him. Like it's that kind of silly, right? But then all of a sudden we've got Eleven's brother going, "You have to kill me. Let me die. Turn off the machine." And you're like, whoa, holy shit. It's like, when did we get this heavy all of a sudden? So, and even my kids were kind of watching this going, she's gonna kill her brother? I'm like, yeah, holy crap. And she does. She turns her brother off and the whole network crashes. And she sets everybody free. So in that respect, it's kind of like the opposite of Ready Player One, where they make the internet better and everyone's happy. Whereas in this version, they shut the internet, they shut the psychological network off. Which, I mean, it sounds like they still have normal internet. Oh, actually, that's the other weird thing, is that this is like an alternate now, because I think it's supposed to take place in like the early 90s as well. So it's like, it's not even like now.
The book was 97, like, so I don't know.
Yeah, so it's like it's late 90s. So then they haven't even really got full internet like we have. So they have that to look forward to. But yeah, it's a really weird movie in that respect. It gets serious at weird times. It gets really ridiculous. Only one human gets killed in it, which is played by Data, and it's a weird role for him because he's usually such like a kind of friendly character, like actor, and they have him in this position where basically he was the doctor that took the kid from 11 and put him into the machine, and then after the fact realized that the kid was still capable of basically waking up, at which point Center didn't want him to wake up. And Tucci, who runs Center, basically said, "You can leave or you can die." And so Data had to flee, and before he left, he kind of created like a hole in the network so that the kid's consciousness could escape if he wanted to. And then he gets shot halfway through the movie by Stanley Tucci. In fact, the only real interesting arc in the movie is that when Giancarlo Esposito starts the movie, he's like the butcher of Schenectady. He killed all these robots. He's like a robot hunter. And he comes off like this bloodthirsty asshole. He's like, no fucking around. Just, I'm going to kill these robots. And by the end of the movie, he realizes that maybe he made a mistake because he's got Center actively killing humans, which is against his code. He actually says to the guy, he's like, I thought you had me tracking a robot. He's like, I was tracking a child the whole time. And Tucci says, yeah, it doesn't matter. He's like, I don't care how you feel about this. It's done. And Stanley Tucci plays such a brazen, I don't give a shit prick that he actually convinces Giancarlo Esposito that the robots might not be that bad, which is kind of like the most natural arc through the movie. But overall, yeah, I didn't think they spent that much money on this movie. And when I found out, I was kind of like, where did the money go? And I think where it went was the fact that they didn't want to use animatronics. So every robot in the movie is CG. And it's like supposed to be lifelike CG that looks like animatronic robots. And I guess one of the Russo brothers said that if they had tried to build all the shit they need, I mean, honestly, you wouldn't have to build everything. You would have CG'd some of it. But he said that if they had tried to build everything, the movie would have cost 5 times as much. And it's like, this gets to that whole idea of like, what happens? Sometimes financial limitation forces people to be more creative. And I was just kind of sitting there going, maybe if you guys had done, if you'd not had all the money, you would have done something maybe a little better. I mean, the CG doesn't look bad. I thought they were.
When I saw it, looked fine.
They look
that's
like,
not really the problem.
Yeah, it's just the story is so weird. And then at the end of it all, there's some kind of new treaty with the robots. So the robots don't have to stay in the exclusion zone, except, what do you call it? The Mr. Peanut, who's the president of the robots, tries to renegotiate with Tucci. He doesn't kill Tucci at the end. He basically gets Tucci by the balls and says, we're going to renegotiate, the deal. But I was like, but wasn't the deal made with like the U.S. government or like with the UN? Like is the deal with Center, the corporation? And then the very end of the movie has Eleven giving this like speech to the internet because everyone's trying to figure out like who she is and how she's tied to the internet going down. And it was so funny is my kids were like, "Oh wow, she's gonna give a speech," and I was kind of like, "Guys, if tomorrow someone destroyed the internet so that you guys couldn't download music or watch streaming TV or any of this shit that you guys have come to identify with, would you guys think she was a hero, or would you be like, fuck that bitch?" Hey, I didn't use curse words, but the same idea. And both of them were like, "Yeah, actually, we'd be probably pretty annoyed." I'm like, right. So how do you think that the world of this girl feels about her right now? Like, and she gives this big speech that she's not wrong about, where she's like, listen, she's like, life is about human connection, and you should find someone to be close to, and human connection is the most important thing. And if you're alone, you can come find us because we're rebuilding this culture with all these robots in the desert. And I'm like, okay, this is very sort of kumbaya and cheesy, and kind of overlooks the fact that you just shut off the internet for the world. And you're kind of sitting there going, what are the repercussions of this? What's the body count going to be? Right? Because, I mean, if this is 97, there is no real, I mean, what was the internet like in 97? It's dial-up at that point, right?
Yeah, it's pretty slow.
Yeah, it's pretty slow. And so if the entire world network of high-speed, super virtual reality was all based around running through this kid's brain, which is really stupid, by the way, and now it's all gone, but the technology was basically, the whole world had pivoted to function off this technology, then yeah, I mean, there should be a movie just about the fallout from this shit. This is like one of those things where they always don't talk about the stuff that you're really interested in. One of the things that always bugged me was in Marvel when they did the whole thing, like when Thanos does the snap, and they like jump 5 years later, right? I wanted a movie about what the fuck happens in the aftermath. Like, it doesn't have to be a superhero movie, but just a movie about what the world looks like. Like they give you such a minor glimpse of it, and then they give you a little glimpse of it from like in the Scarlet Witch series when what is her name? Is her name Photon? She's like the I can't remember her name, but basically she gets disappeared and then she comes back 5 years later and she's in the hospital room where she'd been with her mother.
Is that Binary? Is that her name?
Maybe it's Binary. I can't remember. But either way, like they give you this kind of glint or this idea of what it was like and what a massive clusterfuck for the world it was. And I was like, oh, you know what? That's interesting to me. Why didn't they get into that? And it's the same thing with this series where the movie ends and I'm sitting there going, what does the world look like now? What have you done? And I don't necessarily think she's wrong. It's just the whole, if tomorrow you could shut off the internet, a lot of people would die. Like, it's not even like they might die. No, a lot of people would die. There's a lot of people who depend on the internet for all kinds of weird shit. And communication and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, the pivot would be fascinating. And not to mention the fact that this girl just walked away. And you kind of sit there going, was there no, like, they basically attacked a corporation office and destroyed it and potentially killed a lot of people so she could shut off her brother's life support. Now, I have no issue with her shutting off her brother's life support, but I'm kind of surprised there's no repercussions for the rest of this shit unless some kind of deal was negotiated by the robots where they're like, you can't touch 11 because she's our robot Jesus. She's our Messiah. She came and she set us free. Yeah, it's a weird movie. I didn't know that it was very poorly reviewed. I knew nothing about this flick. My son wanted to see it because he likes robots. So is it that poorly reviewed?
Trying to see it. I mean, I saw nothing but bad about it. I think a lot of that is because of the changes made to it, which in fairness, they could not have done. Well, they could have, but it wouldn't be for kids. That's the problem. Not that it sounds like this is all that much for kids. Let's see. So it has a 5.9 out of 10 isn't terrible on IMDb. What does Rotten Tomatoes
and to be clear, I don't think it's a terrible movie.
Ooh, oh boy.
But
it has a 15% critical review.
Yeah.
but 70% with viewers. So there you go.
Yeah, I don't think it's a horrible movie, but it's not for spending that much money.
It does sound like what they tried to do. I mean, some of the stuff just sounds baffling, like the idea of the kid's brain running the corporation. Just to be clear,
no,
so
the kid's brain runs everything.
That's what I'm saying. Runs everything. So in the book, there's none of that. That doesn't the very bare bones of what you're saying are the book. So there's a girl and a robot that are looking for her younger brother, right? That part is the same. However, in the book, everything that's destroyed, everybody being dead, that's from a civil war between two groups of human beings. But the machines never became sentient. There are no sentient machines.
Oh, yeah.
The way
all
you're talking
the robots are sentient in this.
No. There's no Mr. Peanut or any of that kind of shit.
Yeah.
There are people that are hooked on the virtual thing. And in fact, if they unhook, a lot of them are rumored to be dying because they unhook. So they are now dependent on being in there. And when she gets to where her brother is, well, there was no car accident either. The mom dies because she couldn't get health care or something. So probably too political for Netflix, I'm sure. But I think I believe it's because she was hooked on the VR set and there was something happening to her brain from it. And then they wouldn't cover it or whatever. But anyway, so she gets there and the brother, now this part is... It's not as silly as what you're talking about, but it's close. It's on a line for me, which is they find out when she gets there what she discovers is that her brother is not the child of her father, but appears to have been a digital impregnation based on a shared consciousness that has been developing from everybody being consistently hooked into this VR network. And it is possible. They don't say it. I mean, nothing is really confirmed. But it's inferred that she was digitally impregnated because at this point, humans and the interfaces are kind of crossing over.
So essentially,
and
the
there's
network...
like a cyber cult.
Oh, no, the network convinced her body that it was pregnant.
Yes,
it's the whole
he actually
delusion.
Was born. So
interesting.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that you can't pull that off, but you need a very specific explanation of that.
Well, and for what you're talking about, I mean, there's none of this like happy-go-lucky robot shit. Like none of that exists.
Oh no, the movie is full of happy-go-lucky robot shit.
Yeah, no, there's.
In fact, I will say this: Woody Harrelson does the voice of Mr. Peanut. And at one point, I thought they were going to kill him. And, like, I will admit, I was very sad that they were going to kill Woody Peanut. Like, I like Woody Peanut. And you know, they know how to make you like the characters, even though there's a level of absurdity to it all because the robots are so goofy. And like when they have this big fight at the end, which is between like drone pilot humans. So and the drones look, honestly, you know, the drones all look like Chappie. Remember the movie Chappie?
Oh yeah.
They all look like Chappie, but they have a face screen and there's a human face on there. So at the end, all these weird robots fight the human drones. And you know what? It's a pretty good looking fight. I mean, at one point, Stanley Tucci busts out in what essentially looks like a Hulkbuster suit. You know, but yeah, it's a very sort of. It crosses over from kooky to weirdly serious very quickly, you know, because like I said, Data gets blown away halfway through the movie by Giancarlo Esposito. Giancarlo Esposito pulls a gun on him, but it won't shoot because he refuses to kill humans. And then Stanley Tucci shows up in a drone body and just blows him away. And that's the only human that really gets like wiped out like on screen. And you kind of sit there and go, well, Data's character was, I'm calling him Data, Jesus Christ. What's his real name?
Brent Spiner?
No, not Data from Goonies. What's his name?
I was going to call him Short Round.
Yeah, Short Round. Yes. Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's Short Round Data. I can't remember the actor's name, but in my head, I'm always like Short Round Data.
I'll mispronounce it. It's like Ki Ha Kwan or something.
But you understand what I'm saying. So they killed Short Round Data. And and the thing is, you're kind of meant to be like, okay, because, you know, he did a bad thing and he did a bad thing to a child. But then the funny thing is he builds this robot that looks like a series of like 1990s computer parts stacked on top of each other. And it talks like him. So his robot goes on to help Eleven through the rest of the movie and sounds like him. And there's this funny thing where it even tries to push the glasses up on the screen, because it has these digital glasses that keep sliding down. It's very silly. But it's like there's all this kind of weird, kooky shit mixed in with all this kind of serious shit. So tonally, it's very strange. And like, Chris Pratt is kind of playing a little more asshole version of Star-Lord to some degree, I'd say. Like, Chris Pratt's range is...
See,
I like Chris Pratt. But he's limited.
Here is the guy who did these books is Swedish. A lot of his books have direct criticisms on core American things like religion, how gay people are treated, like all this stuff that Netflix is never going to touch, and that's why.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I'm very interested in that, but just from the movie,
well, then you should look at the books.
They've taken what is probably a very interesting, complex ideas and turned it into an American blockbuster movie for fun.
Yeah.
It's a road movie. They're running from the bad guys. They're being pursued. They need to set the world free. They're going to do it.
They made it into a sanded off Netflix sci-fi story. That's what they did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And here's the thing is that how there's all these. So Chris Pratt has done all these kind of generic sci-fi combat movies, right? He did Forever War. And then he did another one. Like he's done kind of, there's these, it's kind of generic Chris Pratt movies that he's doing. This feels like it falls into that. It's another generic Chris Pratt sci-fi movie where he's vaguely military and there's all sorts of fighting with robots and, and like I said, I didn't hate it. It was a popcorn movie. We watched it. It was funny at times. I didn't want Mr. Peanut to die. And then it was over and I was like, okay, I don't need to see that again.
Yeah.
And then I found out how much they spent on it, and I was like, "Whoa, that was too much." And this goes back to the Wonder Woman thing, where you're like, would you have paid full price for that book? No, I would have paid $10 for that book. And it's the whole thing of like, would you have bought would you have been annoyed? Would have I been annoyed buying a ticket to see this movie with my kids? No, I would have bought a ticket. I would have gone to see it with my kids. We'd have been entertained by all the robot combat and whatever, and then we would have left and we'd have forgotten this movie, right? Yeah. I don't regret having seen it. I would have bought a ticket for it and had a kind of fun popcorn time with my kids. But beyond that, I cannot believe they spent that much money on this movie, nor do I believe this movie could have made that money back in box office.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's a question. How do these movies even make money going straight to Netflix?
Okay, so there's there's a couple of metrics that are, none of these companies will tell you. Let's start off with that. None of them are going to tell you. But what is generally believed is that what they care about are a combination of things. But in general, they look at whether it brings new subscribers in when that thing is released. If they see a subscriber bump. If they see that people rewatch it periodically and those people stay as subscribers, so it's something that they revisit. The obvious publicity thing, if something critically gets a lot of traction and becomes very pop culture, it will naturally bring subscribers to, even if they don't come for that, they'll come for a service that has something hot on it that they want to see.
Got it.
And then there is just the general completion rate. How many people started the thing and finished it and then revisited it?
And somehow that warrants spending that much money on this movie.
Well, if it's, yes, because if it is, this is why you saw and are still seeing all these shows and movies that are being split into parts. That's the streaming mentality, because that way, if they have a hit,
keep you on the channel for longer.
Yeah, and then part 2 doesn't come out for 6 months. They're counting on you.
Waiting.
Not remembering to cancel because, if there's some kind of magic number, and I would guess it's between 3 to 6 months, that if it's that short when the next part comes out, you'll be like, well, I'll find other things to watch until that comes on and I'll watch part 2. But there's no point in me canceling if I'm going to be resubscribing in 3 months. Even though, of course, there is. You'd save 2 months worth of money, or 3 months, depending. But people don't think that way. People are silly in the brain. And so they don't do those calculuses correctly. It's the same reason why I don't understand. Actually, I do. I've said for a while, I'm sort of shocked that they haven't ended the ability to do monthly subscriptions. And the only reason that makes any sense that they wouldn't is because the overwhelming number of people don't cancel and resubscribe periodically. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why anybody keeps subscribing to a service that they're not watching enough to justify that cost.
I know that we don't cancel stuff first off, we're not subscribed to as many things as other people are. I know that for a fact. We have kind of our set number of things that we go for. And we don't get rid of them because sometimes we might go a couple of days and not watch anything, and then we will randomly watch something. And because there's 4 people watching
but that's not what I'm talking about, because if you're watching a few times a month...
You're talking about people who don't watch you don't use the streaming service for up to a month. I
canceled Netflix after I'm not kidding. We hadn't watched anything on it in probably 3 to 4 months. And I finally was like, why am I paying for this?
No. If I didn't watch something for 3 to 4 months, I would cancel it. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you saying that people keep it open even when they don't watch it for 3 to 4 months?
Yeah, because
that feels weird to me,
because they become used to the cost. Now, as it goes up, I think that's now changing because so many of them. But when it was like $7-8, and it only went up $1 or $2.
You see, my wife, if we don't watch something on a channel for like a week or 2, my wife's like, "Maybe we should get rid of it." And
well, that's how I am now.
And I'll be like, "We're not going to get rid of it," and she'll be like, "Why?" And I'll be like,
when shit was cheap, I didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
Then once they all started raising their prices, I started thinking about it, and I was like, "Yeah, this is pointless." So.
I just turned around and I said to her, "We're not going to get rid of it because we're going to watch this next week." And she's like, "Oh yeah," and I remember that there's different shows we want to watch and different things, like HBO Max. We're not watching anything on HBO Max right this minute, but we're going to be watching something on HBO Max soon because we're going to finish one. My thing is, I see everything as like train tracks, right? So right now I've got the Netflix train track. I've got like the Amazon Prime train track through my wife. I haven't canceled that. That's hers. She won't let me cancel it. That's an interesting conversation. She put her foot down on that one. We've got like Disney Plus, and I think we have Apple. Those are the 4 channels that we've got. Those are the 4 tracks. And I move everything around in my head as to what track we're on at what time. And I'm kind of like, okay, we're watching this series right now, but this series will run out. And when it runs out, we're going to watch this series on this channel. And then we're going to watch that. And when that runs out, we'll switch over to this channel. And we've always got about probably 3 or 4 shows running at the same time so that we kind of alternate around them. And we're usually utilizing at least 2 to 3 services out of the 4 at all times. But she forgets about like the fourth rail. And she goes, "We're not watching on the 4th rail right now. We should cancel it." I'm like, "We're going to be watching something on there next week. We're going to finish we're about to finish the Reacher series, and then we're going to start something else up elsewhere." My problem is that in Prime, she's subscribed to a lot of the sub channels. And those we have to stay on top of because it's very easy to subscribe to something within Prime and then just leave it there.
Yeah, we don't do any, for that reason, we will not do that.
Well, I won't let us subscribe to more than 3 at a time. And if we haven't watched something for 2 or 3 weeks, I will pull it off because it's so easy to on Prime to jump on and off a sub channel.
I know it is, so
it's
I don't like the idea of anything being nested like that.
So, yeah. Well. So I'm not saying that Electric State is a bad movie. I'm just saying that it's a forgettable tween popcorn movie.
That's fine.
But that's what I watched before we did our review.
Yeah, that's a tonal shift. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was, it was. Yeah. So do you want to do your review or you want to do the double review?
I'll do mine. Might as well just do mine, which is 2 movies, but they're basically generally presented as one, so it doesn't matter. I watched... the title of these movies has been in my... I've heard of these movies forever. It's a Japanese anime based off a manga from 1991 called Silent Mobius. I always thought that was one of the greatest titles I'd ever heard of.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, it's been around forever. They made a TV series as well, which I'm not going to watch because I've read it's not great. So, I kind of think I got enough out of these that I need of this type of story, because the general premise is not. There's a lot of stuff like this, and it's not really something I generally like. But I'll be honest, I watched these just for the title.
What an interesting fucking premise. Oh my god.
Okay, what is the premise you're reading? I'll see.
Okay, so I'm reading the premise to the actual anime series, the manga series.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
is it 12?
Okay, yeah.
And so you'll have to tell me if the movie is like it's a 12-volume manga series created by manga artist Kia Asamiya. It is heavily influenced by the film Blade Runner and is centered on the lives of an all-female group of police officers dedicated to protecting Tokyo from an invasion of extra-dimensional creatures called Lucifer Hawks.
Yes. Okay. That is largely correct. Now, one thing that I really like about this, I only knew that it was some kind of fusion of sci-fi and like magic, which is not something I generally like.
The movie.
I watched 1 and 2. Now, those have been combined or condensed down to a single movie at times.
Okay.
I don't know whether they cut stuff or whether they just make it one or whatever. So I watched it as it was originally done, which was Silent Mobius 1, Silent Mobius 2. I don't even think they have subtitles. It's just 1 and 2.
Got it.
The easiest way to present or to frame what these movies are in terms of the way they tell their story is imagine the first Matrix movie. Now, the first Matrix movie ends where Neo makes the phone call and flies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine if there had been a scene at the very opening before he gets to the phone booth where he's walking through a sea of people, almost like when they take him on the digital tour. And he walks out and there's 3 agents and they start firing and everybody's panicking and he does something and blows them up. Yeah. And everybody's like, holy shit, this guy's amazing. And then he walks into the phone booth, and as he picks up the phone, there's a flashback to the beginning of the movie, like the regular beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
That's what this is framed as. So the main character is the super magic police officer. The name of the group is the Attacked... what the hell
I
is
just saw the name. Hold on, I found it. I was just looking at it.
Attacked Mythological Police. Is that what it is?
Mystification?
Yeah, it's a bizarre name. It's like Attacked Mystification Police. AMP.
I was just looking at this too. Oh yeah, here we go. Attacked Mystification PD.
Yeah, they never explain what the hell that is. It's so bizarre, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Their outfits are amazing. They have these outfits that are a combination of like Vampire Hunter D capery mixed with what looks like Ghost in the Shell type of bomb preventable collars and shit.
I'm looking at it, and there's fucking
they're
swords
beautiful.
And guns and all kinds of weird shoulder pads and All
right. So now, again, I did no reading about this. Didn't know the manga. I never read. I didn't know any of the background, anything. So it starts out, and it's AD 2019 Tokyo, which I'm like, AD 2028. I was thinking Akira. So Akira's AD 2019 Neo Tokyo. This starts out AD 2028 Tokyo. It is absolutely a Blade Runner world, where it's dystopian cyberpunk, and you see this woman, and she's coming down a hallway, and she detects something. And she fires. It's cool as hell. Like it's all beautifully animated, and her partner is a mystic monk woman, I guess. She throws like little pieces of paper with letters on them to like establish psychic shields. But the other woman is all like brute force. She's basically, I don't know if she's entirely if she's a cyborg or what, but one of her arms is definitely a cyborg. And so they're in this place and they detect a Lucifer Hawk. And they're all there, and then you hear like somebody's coming.
Lucifer Hawk is such a specific name too.
Oh yeah, well, there's a lot of religion in it. Like she prays when she summons things. She ends it with amen. Like but she's drawing pentagrams and shit. Like it's all mixed together. It's great. So I like the fact that it's all just general spirituality. It's not necessarily Christianity, but like she's drawing what looks like a Star of David, but also a pentagram inside of a circle while she's saying amen. And she's talking to Gabriel. Gabriel, get behind me. Uriel, get in front of me. Like she's doing all this shit. And it's like, okay, they're just mixing it all. Like I was waiting for her to summon fucking Zeus's lightning bolt at one point, which is fine. That's fine with me. I have no issue with any of that.
You know what that
so
makes
they're all
me think
assembling.
Of? That reminds me of, in Big Trouble in Little China.
Like your salad bar. I was about to fucking quote that very thing. We take what we want, like your salad bar. It's the same shit. Yeah, same thing. So they're all there, and the chief of police, oh god, what's his name in Ghost in the Shell? What's the chief's name?
Oh, the Fox. God. Ishikawa.
No, the guy with the big hair. Big hair man, not Ishikawa. He's the cyborg. He's the hacker. What's the name? Aramaki. So this version's Aramaki. It is all female, which I actually really like. They never do any romance stuff. There's no guys. It's all just
there's no lesbianics in this?
Nothing.
That's
nothing.
Amazing. I am surprised by that.
This is an exceptional thing for its time. This is 91. So there's one scene where two male officers, and I was like, oh no, they're going to go down this thing. Like this is going to become, but no, it's just one guy saying to another, don't you know who that is? And they're like, no, who is it? She's like, not only is she that beautiful, but she's the best fucking super powered person on the force. And that's the last you see of these two dopes, and they're gone. It's just for them to remind the audience that this woman is both the best cop on the force in terms of her psychic, supernatural, whatever, and she's gorgeous. Because, I mean, they all kind of do look the same. In anime of this time, all the women just have different colored hair, but otherwise they look very similar. They all have giant eyes and no waists. That's it. So starts off, and they're all there, and the chief's like, just wait, Katsumi's not there yet. And so they're all just waiting, and suddenly she arrives in this fucking awesome car that looks like a reverse spinner from Blade Runner.
Is this like a skinny Batmobile?
Yeah. It's like, yes. Yeah, so it's like a reverse trike or whatever.
I just saw a picture of it. Yeah, it looks like a skinny Batmobile.
Yeah, so she gets there, and she has a talking skull that is like, hey, boss, this is a really powerful Lucifer Hawk, so just be aware. Now, this skull never comes back in the rest of the entire thing. So you're just supposed to accept that this is it. But honestly, I didn't care. And so she's like, all right, well, I'm going to need you to form into a sword. And he's like, all right. And he forms this giant bone sword. And the Lucifer Hawk manifests out of it because they're extra dimensional whatevers. So this thing manifests, and it's like, and she's like, all right, sword, do your shit. He's like, all right. And she's like, amen. And she goes and she slices at it. At which point the screen like explodes into light. And now we cut back. And the rest of the two films are how she got to this point. So now it's basically her origin story, which the only real problem I have with this entire thing is there's a lot of people who have problems watching the second Indiana Jones movie because Kate Capshaw screams constantly, which even I can't stand how much she's shrieking for much of that movie. But I have good news for you.
It doesn't really bother me.
I have good news for you. Watch these movies. It'll never bother you again because the woman who plays Katsumi in this is screaming so much that I started to laugh at it. I mean, what they were trying to do was convey how much she doesn't want to be a part of this world. She doesn't. She does not want anything to do with any of this. The only reason she comes to Tokyo, which is why she's on the flight in the beginning when it flashes back, is because her mother is sick and dying. And her mother is talking to the chief of the thing, and she's like, she's going to hate me when she finds out, the truth about who she is and all the rest of it. And the chief's like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You shield her as long as you can, but you can't hide everything forever.
So are some people just meant to be in this kind of work?
Yes, that's essentially she is the most gifted of all these types of people because her mother and father were both heavy-duty psychics or whatever. They don't ever name what these people are. So I'm saying psychics, but it's basically like, I'll call her a necromancer. She's a super warlock. I don't want to say witch.
She's like a supernatural warrior.
Yeah, she's magician number one. She's fucking Super Zatanna. So Super Zatanna had Super Zatanna parents who both had a Super Zatanna plus child, and that's her. So she shows up. I don't know how else to put it. She shows up. And, the mom dies, and so she suddenly notices these two women that are following her after she goes down a alleyway that has some of these little pieces of paper that super monk woman put up. And the cyborg lady puts her against the wall and says, how the fuck did you get in here? Are you one of them? And she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, you're one of them, and you're taking a different form. And she's like, no, I don't know. I'm just walking through an alley. And she says, how could you walk through this alley? We shielded it. So they don't really know who she is. The chief does, but the people on the ground don't. And so the monk woman, because the Kitty is the name of the cyborg, the super cyborg woman, like she is hardcore aggressive. She's great. She's just like brutal, straight to the point, gives no fucks. And then monk woman is the more kind of sensitive of the two. And they're the pairing. So you got the person who's the brute force machine along with somebody who's like, okay, let's try talking before we put a fist through the entire side of the building. And so she realizes, okay, if this woman's here, she's not a Lucifer Hawk. I would have sensed it. So she obviously has some ability because normal people can't walk down here. They wouldn't even see the alley because we shielded it. And so they bring her back to the office and the chief's like, yeah,
so, honestly, this is a bit Shadowrun, isn't it? It's like if magic existed in Ghost in the Shell.
No, very much. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So the chief's like, well, I want these two to guard you because you've been targeted by outside forces. But she doesn't really tell her what's going on because, the mom doesn't really want her to know yet. And so she goes, and after she gets released, she goes to see the mom. And the mom's like, thanks for coming to see me. And then she's still walking around and she keeps seeing these two women that are walking around. But then when she goes back to see her mom again, she goes back and she says, I never did really get an answer from you on what happened to Dad. I mean, I know that Dad died and it was here, but I don't really know what happened. She's like, yeah, okay, I'll tell you, but not right now. And she gives her this necklace that's got a pentagram and like a red thing on there. And so she goes back to her hotel.
That's always a good sign when your parents.
That's always a great sign. And so so these two women are following her again. She confronts them and says, "Why are you guys following me? I'm just here to see my mother." And they tell her. Then they finally say, "Well, we think this Lucifer Hawk is after you, but the fact that it wasn't able to attack you must mean that you have really strong barrier powers." Are Lucifer Hawks
known by people in the world, or is this
okay? So. Well, the police force is out and about in the public, so I assume that they know something is out there. Whether they know the details or not is never really clarified, but they're not hiding who they are.
Okay.
Like this, so when these things attack, shit blows up, so they must know something's happening.
Somewhat known, okay.
Somewhat, yeah. And so, they tell her about the Lucifer Hawk thing, and she's like, look, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any powers. I don't know what the fuck a Lucifer Hawk is. I'm just here because my mom is sick and I came to visit her. So she goes home, and she's in the hotel, and she's in the shower, at which point a Lucifer Hawk manifests in the shower as this blob of flesh. These things are fucking disgusting.
Always in the shower.
Fortunately, does not seem to try to sexually assault her, which is what I was sure was going to happen. I was like,
normally what's going to happen with these, yeah.
I thought it was going to be like, we have to make you have the super child of darkness. And I'm like, oh, God. Because these tentacle stalks come out, and I'm like, I can see exactly where this is going.
Oh, God, yeah.
But it doesn't.
You're waiting for it.
No, it doesn't. They're trying to pull her into the other dimension, and she manages to kind of like... reflexively force it off, at which point the other two women burst in and see her on the floor all bloodied, and they're like, yeah, this is why we have to help you. There's something about you they want, and you're better off with us than going this on your own. She's like, no, fuck you, I don't want any part of this. And so they're like, okay, but we're still going to follow you because these things are after you. So she's kind of going around, these two things are behind her, and she, again, gets confronted by what looks like a double of herself. And then this thing like shoots her back into her memory and says, yeah, it's your parents. You are something special. And you're going to, if you join us, then we can beat all these people. We can take over. You can have the ultimate power, blah, 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 blah. Right? Same old shit. So the two women show up and bail her out again. The mother starts to die. The mother goes out to this big tower in the center of the city and is basically, and I think the second chief or whatever, the deputy chief is there. And the mother says, all right, I'm going to try to banish them. I'll just kill myself. I'll take them with me. And she does that right as this thing is about to kill the daughter. And of course, it sees this beacon of power and goes after the mother. And the mother essentially detonates herself and blows up this tower and seemingly kills the Lucifer Hawk, or at least that's what you think. That's the end of part one. So then in part two, by the way, opens up with one of the most beautiful animation things I've ever seen. It's so just about a
movie. The whole series is basically about how she got to be what she is.
The whole first movie is just her mom killing herself and us knowing that this woman has some kind of superpower and that the Lucifer Hawks want her. And that's why they're there. and basically the organization figuring out that if they can get her on their side, they might actually be able to take the Lucifer Hawks out entirely because they're so focused on her. And they figure out that, well, that must be the key to whatever they want to do, because they don't really know why there's something inferred about the fact that there was a truce that the humans broke, but it's sort of, they didn't really go into detail, so I don't know if you were supposed to have read the books and know that. It doesn't really matter, but they're clearly focused on this Katsumi woman. And so the organization is figuring, well, we need her because this is what they're after. If she's on our side, we can beat them and they can't ever come through because they won't have her. So Mom kills herself. That's the end of part 1, or movie 1. Movie 2 is right after that happens. They're there, and they're still trying to recruit her. And she's like, no, I don't want to be part of this. And the deputy says, well, regardless, you're involved. And here, your father left you this book, and gives her this book. And she's looking at it, she's like, no, I don't care about any of this. I just want to leave. And so she goes to fly back to Hawaii, where she's from. And they basically say, oh, no, you were converted into a citizen of this country, so you need to get a visa now to go back. And she figures out that AMP did that without telling her, to keep her in the country. AMP? And AMP is the organization. Oh, okay. The attacked Mistopheles, whatever. AMP. I'm just going to call it AMP. Yeah.
So they made her a citizen?
They basically converted her into a Japanese citizenship behind her back so that she couldn't leave without getting a visa because they want to keep her there.
Jeez, that's harsh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's pissed off. She storms in. She's like, fuck you. Get me out of here. I don't want to be part of this. And the chief's like, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you, but we can't let you leave because they're after you. And you're also clearly able to do something to them. So until we figure this out, you're staying here. And so she basically gets really depressed. She kind of wanders out into the rain, collapses, and she's like, maybe I should just die out here and it'll be over with. And this woman picks her up and brings her back.
She goes from suddenly wanting to die? I mean...
Well, because her parents are dead. She's trapped in the city. She doesn't want to be there. There's no indication she can get out. And she sort of, I'm not saying she was suicidal, but she sort of like falls down in the rain and it's raining. And she's like, I don't even know what I can do. I'm stuck here. These people want me to do something I don't want to do. These things are after me. Maybe it would be better if I just die out here on the street. And then she kind of like passes out and then wakes up in this woman's apartment. And the woman's like, oh, I saw you out there. And, I don't know why you want to die because I've seen you in my dreams. This woman's like a precog. Like she can see things. So she knows that Kasumi's really important. So she rescues her and says, yeah, you can't die. Everybody here needs you. You don't understand why yet, but I'm telling you that you're important. And she's like, yeah, I don't care. I don't want to be important. I don't want any part of this shit. But of course, you know where this is going because we've seen the beginning of the movie. So she's there at this apartment. She's staying with this very nice woman. The woman's very nice. And meanwhile, we see that the chief goes out to this area where there's been some kind of disturbance reported. And one of these Lucifer Hawks shows up, one of these giant ones, like the chief or whatever, shows up and is like, yeah, we're going to get her and then you're all dead. You guys fuck this up and we're going to finish it off. So you want to be pissed off, go ahead, but you're all going to be dead anyway, so what's the point? Meanwhile, Katsumi basically tries to sneak out of the apartment, and Yuki, who's the woman who rescued her, kind of sees her, and she's like, oh, you going to get breakfast? I'll go with you. So it's kind of, obviously knew what was going on, but didn't want to make it too obvious, and is trying to convey to her, because I don't think Yuki necessarily knows at this point. She's on the team later when we see her at the beginning and the end, but I don't think at this point she really knows what her powers are. She just knows she's seen this woman and knows she's important, has this sense about her. And Kasumi's like, well, that's very nice. You're a very nice woman, but I'm getting out of here. And so she then confronts her at the train station, kind of breaks down and says, you don't realize how important you are. And so she's like, all right, fine. I don't want you to stay here crying. So they go out and they talk. And she's like, yeah, you're really important. Like there's something going on here and you're the key to it. And so she's like, okay. But really, the thing that I'm curious about is why did my dad leave me this book of magic and all this shit? And they sort of start putting together that the mom and dad were, super powered. And so there's these two people who throughout the series, we see them playing chess psychically. And they end up being just these two individuals who kind of know what's going on. And they say to her that, that her father... I think her father was one of the ones who broke the treaty not necessarily intentionally, but basically loose this evil upon the world. And so he knew he was going to be killed by them. And so he infused all of his power into her as she was a baby. And then combined with her mother, that's what's making her,
she's basically two people in one.
Yeah, exactly. And they basically tell her, like, look, they say, you are the one who can stop all this. Yes, you don't want to be part of it, and that's understandable. This was not something you knew anything about. But the reality is, there is a bigger thing going on, and you are the one who can stop it. So do you just want to let everybody die? Is that okay? Are you okay with just letting people get wiped out? And obviously she's not. So she's like, all right, fine. And so she goes, and then she is...
Fine, I'll save the world, bitches.
I mean, that's kind of it, so she goes, and then those two people are revealed to actually be Lucifer Hawks. Now, nothing they told her was untrue. The thing is that they're saying that you either come with us and this all stops because we're going to win, or we're going to have to kill you. And so obviously, the rest of the team figures out where they are. They all show up. They start fighting. There's all this shit going on, blah, 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 stuff's exploding, whatever.
And the thing is, how do the other Lucifer Hawks appear? Because so far I've got a double of her and a blob.
They just could come out of the other dimension. So they sense her, and that's what they keep
look
appearing.
Like?
Oh, they just look like all these amalgamated parts of people and like animals and shit with like eyes stuck in certain parts and then separating plates of flesh that things come out of. They're not okay. There you go. They look kind of like
body horror.
You know what? Actually, they look like Cronenberg versions of the aliens from the Abyss. Imagine that Cronenberg constructed flesh, blood, organ versions of the Abyss aliens, and you've got kind of the sense of them. That's what they are. So finally, this all comes into this big empty fight where everybody's getting fucked up, and she's seeing people like getting injured and almost dead, and what's-her-face's arm gets blown off, and finally she's like, all right, that's it, and she's fucking summons all this shit and blows them all the fuck up, at least they think, but they're not really completely beaten. But she finally accepts that she's got this power, she does all this shit, summons all these different things, blows them up. And then we cut back to essentially the beginning of the movie where she shows up, she dispenses with the Lucifer Hawk from the beginning of the movie. And, like the robot woman comes up and says, all right, you're finally getting the hang of this thing. And she's like, she says, you finally got the hang of this.
How far into the second movie are we at this point?
No, this is the end where they go. They loop back to the beginning.
Okay.
Oh yeah. They loop back to the beginning where we first saw her show up, and the cyborg woman, Kitty's like, "Yeah, you've got the hang of it now." And she's like, "I don't have the hang of it. I'm just getting started. But believe me, once I know this shit down, we will fuck these people up." And then it just like cuts to the end song. It's like, "Do do do, you're gonna beat everybody," and that's it. And then the movie ends. It's fucking great. It's really good. I enjoyed the shit out of it
now,
because I didn't think I would.
Series a continuation of this, or is it the
same
story?
But basically what I read was it's nowhere near as good as the movies, so it will only be a letdown. And honestly, like I said, this feels like the first Matrix movie, where if we'd never gotten more movies, which I like the other two movies, don't get me wrong, but if we'd never gotten more, it would be fine. We don't need to see Neo's war on the rest of them. We know where it's going. Like, we can write the rest of it. Like this, I don't need more. Yeah. I've got it. It's perfectly fine. They set it up well, and I'm good with it. I may at some point read the books because it's an interesting premise, but I'm not going to watch the series because I think the series ended on a cliffhanger because it didn't do well. So okay. I don't want to start anything like that. This is a nice kind of bookended movie. It's about 2 hours long. The animation it's not of Akira level, but it's pretty good. The designs of like the costumes and stuff are good. The animation, like that opening of the second movie where you see the city go from night to day, is really well done. I don't know that I've seen anything quite like that where computer generation wasn't involved. And it is not. There's no computers. You can tell it was all done by hand. But the way they had to do that had to be and it looks very smoothly, organically natural, to the point where there's even like rays of sunshine that they must have reflected into the lens or something. It's, if nothing else, if you can find a clip of that opening, watch that, because I have not seen anything quite like that.
Where did you watch the movies?
I found there's an archive. Of course, everything's on archive. There's an archive version of it, but the second part I watched through a French streaming site using a VPN. So if you want to go through all of that,
okay.
Yeah, because I was like, I can't not see the second part because I'm curious why they broke it up. So part 1 is easy to find.
Honestly, it feels like one big movie.
And that's the thing.
Is this like Macross Plus, where like they did a movie version, then they did the longer version, which is the whole story?
I feel like it's a lot like that. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. They could probably have cut half an hour out of this and it would be fine. Because there's a lot of parts of her just shrieking, no, I don't want to be involved, screaming. And you could probably cut a lot of that out, and I would certainly be happier. But it's a really good story about the one super agent. It's something where I could see the series being about each of them and how they came to it before the big final battle. Like I could see how that could be architected. But as is, this is better than I thought it was going to be. Because again, I'm not big on the whole sci-fi magic thing.
Well, it's a weird mix, and you kind of have to do it a certain way.
It's a Shadowrun type of success, as you said. They do use it very well, and I think a lot of it is because they don't dwell on the magic part. It's just generic magic. They're just throwing out names of different deities and angels, like the skull that turns into a sword is never explained. I don't care. That's fine. I understood what it was. Where she's like, now form blazing sword, and he's like, dun dun dun, and he like turns into a sword. Like, okay, that's fine. He can talking sword. I'm okay with this. Like, I don't need a bunch of big explanations. Why is it called Attacked Mystification, PD? Who gives a shit? It sounds cool, and they said amp. They say amp all the time. Yeah. So, and the art style is the type I like. This is the period of anime that I like, and it's animated fairly well. There's some weak stuff here and there, but it is definitely of a better quality than some other things at the time. So, I would recommend it if you can watch it. Like I said, the bitch of it is trying to watch the second part. Yeah. And what I keep seeing is part 1. And don't get me wrong, part 1 does have an ending, but it's not really the ending because it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't loop back around where now you see the whole way that she got to this.
Yeah.
It just makes, but you could sort of, and I think this may have been the idea, is the first part ends in a way where you might be able to believe the threat is actually gone because of the mother's sacrifice. And it's more of her accepting that she has this as part of her person as opposed to being part of the squad. But you've seen her as part of the squad in the beginning. That's what I mean. So you're kind of missing that. So
yeah, you need the bookends.
Yeah, and I'm at some point there is a Blu-ray of this in France, which is why I think it's streaming only in France.
Interesting.
So I assume at some point it will get released.
Bitch.
I don't know. There's it's probably a rights thing. Who knows? So I would assume at some point it will get released everywhere, and then I would tell people to watch it. But, maybe watch the first part and see if it's something you're even interested in, because it may not be for everybody. And then if you are, you can find the second part. You're just going to have to do a little work, but
well, it sounds interesting. I like Shadowrun style shit when it's done properly.
Yeah. It was outside of the shrieking, which I really could have done without, because, man, that woman can scream, and she does it a lot. Beyond that, I was pleasantly surprised how much I liked it, because I went in just on the cool-ass name, and the actual movie was good, too. So it worked out. So that's Silent Mobius. So I would recommend that for people who like that type of stuff.
That sounds cool.
But then, as Lando said, we then watched our, communal film.
You shut the fuck up!
Now, I just want to say, so Joe, we didn't talk about what movie we were going to watch. Joe picked one, which I'm fine with, but I'm totally cool with it. But I didn't download it right away. I saw a title, and I was like, okay, and I didn't connect it back to a trailer I had previously seen. And somewhere in my head, for some reason connected it to the land of the what is it, the dinosaur
Land of the
show.
Lost. With the
Land of the Lost.
Sleelax or whatever.
Yeah. And so in my brain, I was like, is this some kind of 70s weird dinosaur horror or something? Like, because I usually expect you to bring me something like 70s, 60s, like, you know, this that era, some kind of weird horror movie or a weird not horror movie, something like that, right? And I never, that's what my brain was expecting. So when it ended up being the movie that it was, I was so blindsided. I mean, literally my head just spun and I was like, oh, okay, we're watching this. And what we watched is basically the most recent Resident Evil movie, also known as, what is it, the Land of the Lost? Is that what it's called?
In the Lost Lands is the actual title of the film. The latest Paul W.S. Anderson film, where yet again he employs his wife, in which I cannot possibly ever blame him, because, as I told you, this is the reason I wanted to watch it. Her and Bautista. Her much more than Bautista, but really her. And, yeah, it's his latest film. You are correct, and many other people have said this is Resident Evil 8, 9, whatever, by another name, because it's Milla Jovovich playing another character named Alice, just with the word gray in front.
Yeah, I know. The fact
she
that the
has her
character's name
powers.
is Alice as well.
She
She has her weird powers that kind of change based on everything. And
yeah, it's the third movie, except she went into Witchville instead of Duplicateville or
it is,
whatever.
you know, and it's good that you say that, because when it comes to Anderson Milla movies, I have a chart in my mind of all the movies they've made, and it's either Resident Evil, which I thought was very good, or it's Resident Evil 2, which I think is shit, and then in the middle is Resident Evil 3, and every movie they do together is somewhere in that line, and I feel like this is a Resident Evil 3. It's right in the middle.
Yes. So you told me in the course of it, so when you hear the commentary, Lando looked up that this was a George R. R. Martin short story, apparently written as a part one, with the presumption that this movie did exceptionally well, that he would write the sequel.
Oh, that's never, ever going to happen. George R. R. Martin doesn't write anymore.
Yeah. Well, and this movie is not going to be successful enough to get a sequel.
Plus, you know what? I wouldn't even know what they would do with a sequel to this.
Well, I assume it would be the two of them taking on a job or something. I mean, it would be the two of them hunting together, which we're jumping to the end, but who cares? So the basic premise of the movie, here's the framework of the film. In the beginning, there's the overdog or overlord or whatever, which is the ruling class.
You got to set the environment up. This is a post-apocalyptic.
I'm going to. Well, that's
okay.
So basically, I'm saying there's two controlling parties, which is the overlord, which is the ruling kind of, I don't know, feudal whatever, the king or the overdog.
Yeah, the overdog. Yes.
And then there's the church. And the two of them exert their influence on the people, the war boys and people that live around a Morton Joe citadel. That's what this is. Yeah. It's a Morton Joe citadel and the assorted people around there
in a post-apocalyptic hellscape.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. It's a Morton Joe. It's exactly what this is, except there's no water. That's it. The only difference is they have bars, so they don't have to fight over water. But everybody's miserable. They're all dirty.
But I'll tell you what, for being very dirty, they're very clean. I mean...
Oh, no. The main characters, the people that are oppressed are very dirty.
Yeah, but like all the... That's honestly one of the things that really threw... I mean, you'll hear this in the commentary, too, because at one point I say, God, why are his teeth so white? Like...
Well, here's an interesting factoid about this movie, which I happened to read. This is the first movie in which there are more digital actors than real ones. Apparently, this is the first one where the people outnumber... as far as the human actors that are digital outnumber the real ones. So I guess
I would be so curious what people aren't real.
Well, I think it's got to be everybody who's not a main character. So all those acolytes who are running around. I mean, a lot of them looked CG. So
shit. I'm fucking interested now. Hold on.
Yeah. In any event, that's what I read.
No, so I'm so curious. Go on then for a second while I look this up.
So essentially what we find is that the queen, who is pregnant with the heir to the Overdog, goes to Grey Alice, who is the super witch of the land, who will not refuse any request, but much like a djinn, you better be careful what you ask for because there's always a price to be paid.
And that's the funny thing about this movie. I realize this after the fact, but this movie is basically about a witch who can't say no, but the curse is that she always fucks you over with whatever it is that you wish for. Because if you think about it, there's no one in this movie that makes a wish that doesn't get fucked somehow by the witch.
No, and she says it. She's not even hiding it.
She says, don't ask me. It's a bad idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. So this woman comes to her and says, I want the power to turn into a werewolf or a monster or a beast or whatever.
Yeah, find me this particular werewolf that I know exists and bring me his power so that I may take it.
Right. And so she's like, okay. And then the captain of her guard comes right after she walks out of the room and says,
who is in love with her?
Who's clearly in love. Well, he says at first, she says, I sense the whiff of jealousy on you. At first, he's like, I just want to do what's best for her. But of course, we called it right away. Of course, he's in love with her. So she walks out of the room and he's like, I'll be right there with the car. So he walks up to her and says, all right, I'm going to pay you to make sure that your mission fails. And she's like, well, I can't refuse you. So, okay. And he's like, here's a magical shiny watch for your trouble. And so she now has a magical mystical watch, which bothers me the whole movie. But
it's not magical. It's just a watch.
Oh, no. The way these people treat it, it must be magical because otherwise it's just a fucking watch. But that's just my problem, not anybody else's. So she goes, and meanwhile, we see that Rootin' Tootin', Wild West, Dave Bautista, Drax, what did I call him? High Plains Draxter is out there, shooting people and having a swell leather hat and just having a great old time being the biggest, bulkiest man in boots in the land, riding his horse.
And with very clean boots, I mean. Everything about him is like spotless.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you're living life as well as he is in the middle of deserted nothingness apocalypse, then you might as well be clean.
He's a tracker, and he turns out he's a darling of the queens, and Yeah.
Yeah, everything about him is clean except for his ability to shave. That's the only thing on him that's not immaculate, is he's got a heavy kind of 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock, midnight shadow thing happening. But otherwise, sparkling head to toe with a shotgun that doesn't work except it's got trap snakes on it, which is great until they just basically get rid of that. It was my favorite thing for a while. But it does lead to our favorite line in the movie, which is the bitch killed my snake, which is...
Did you cut that?
I didn't clip it. I didn't. I should have. I know. I should have.
Bitch killed my snake.
Because it's got so much background noise. It's not like a clean. Okay. It's not a clean cut. So I don't like stuff like that.
I can't find a breakdown. I was so hoping I could find a CG breakdown.
I didn't see one either. So I'm going by IMDb. That could be wrong because obviously I would think the orcs in the Lord of the Rings movies would have outnumbered the people, but I guess they're saying people, not orcs. So whatever. It's a piece of trivia. Who cares? There is a lot of CG in the film.
So essentially, the queen has asked this of her name is Grey Alice, and Grey Alice has some kind of weird vision about a beast attacking people. At which point she goes and she finds a tracker to take her to where this beast may be, who is Draxter. And the Draxter says that it's not a good thing. She shouldn't do it. And then she basically offers him a ton of fucking money. And he goes, fine, I'll do it. He's like, I don't think it's a good idea. He's like, I'll do it. And then just then they get attacked by the Templars. Who Grey Alice is pissed off because early on she killed a bunch
cleric
of them.
Comes after them, and she's got her little, disposable background people, and she at one point shows up in fucking aviators, which I cannot get.
Okay, hold on.
The watch of the things that kill me.
You're getting ahead of yourself. So what it is here is the witch has a power that if she stares into your eyes, she can make you see illusions. So she uses that on the Templars early on to basically cause one of their own to shoot at them. So one of their own people kills them. And the sunglasses come out later on when they which is, we're getting ahead here, when they catch up with them and they wear sunglasses, aviator sunglasses, thinking that it'll make it so she can't get into their heads, which seems to work until someone takes them off. To use a sniper rifle.
Well, she takes him off to use a sniper rifle, and so just looking through the scope. This is after they already rode the Dune train, over a fucking ravine and shit.
So getting back to it, yeah. So Mila and Drax leave the city on horses into what looks like a western hellscape, and at this point, it's so far outside of all the weird shit in the city, it feels like a very generic video game movie, right? They go from kind
Mad
of
Max the video game.
Yeah, they go from one kind of mini boss situation to another. They stop at a outpost cantina. Drax sleeps with the only woman there, and has some kind of dialogue where you discover that he's funny and charming, and then they leave, and but the paladins now know that the queen made a deal with the witch, and the paladin lord wants them to basically bring the witch back, get her to confess, so that they can then destroy the underdog and the queen, and the church can take over the whole city. Which is very George R. R. Martin. I mean, that's a storyline right out of Game of Thrones. But they basically have a train, and again, I come back to this. If the train pretty much goes to where Mila and Drax are going, then why didn't they take a fucking train? Anyway, so yes, the Templars take their hell train, which is pretty impressive, I will admit. I mean, it's pretty horrific
No,
looking.
Doom Train's awesome. I loved it in Final Fantasy VIII. I love it here.
Yeah, they take this Doom train and they leave a path of destruction, and they basically destroy the people who've helped Drax along the way, and they eventually come to a head at this crossing where it's a bus on ropes, and you have to take the bus across some mechanical system, and that's when the Templars wear their magic mirrored sunglasses and try to have a big fight sequence with Mila. And this again feels like a mini boss fight. The pacing of this, as of this point in the movie, is very formulaic, right? And you kept going, this cleric, she can't be the main villain, and she is kind of a weak villain. I mean, you're kind of surprised she lives as long as she does, because like everyone around her gets killed.
Well, that's the thing is, she lives so long that I was like, this is going to be the main person, and then she just dies when she goes off a cliff, like with no.
Yeah. So
she never fights anybody. She just goes down a ravine, which is strange.
Yeah. So they get
for how much they've
across.
used her.
They get across the bus, across the ravine on the bus after having a huge fight with a bunch of very disposable Templar characters. But they get across, and when the main paladin tries to use her sniper rifle, she takes her sunglasses off, and the witch is able to charm her through the scope. Which, you know what? Little things like that were adorable. They were cute. They were fun. And up to this point, it was a generic movie. It wasn't great. But you know what? It was still enjoyable. Like, I did not dislike this movie. But early on, it was a little generic.
Well, you get the little political intrigue in the first 10 minutes, and then it's just nothing we haven't seen before a lot of times.
It gets a little more Resident Evil 2 for a while there.
But as you said, it's never boring. We do get a number of different locations. We get a fight in a power plant with Mila's ex-husband, apparently.
Well, the next boss. No, it's not. It's somebody who wanted to find atomic.
I'm creating my own headcanon. Whatever. It was her ex-husband who loved uranium. So she fights
these like weird atomic skeleton demons inside an old atomic reactor. And honestly, visually, I said to you that at one point, this game felt like it had the same design people as Outriders. Mm-hmm. There's a 14-year-old metalhead like kind of design to all this.
Oh, I mean, a double-headed snake that jumps at somebody and bites them in the eye. Yeah, it definitely has that.
So they fight they fight these metal demons with who are susceptible to fire, and then there's a weird sequence where she uses her power on them, and I will admit there's an interesting thing in there about how Drax says to her, "You shot fire out of your hands, but you're not burned." And she says, "I didn't really shoot fire in my hands." She goes, "It was an illusion of fire, but the illusion was so complete that essentially he burned himself." Is like I think that's what she was trying to communicate. That
well, that's like the idea of the monks who can make their skin blister by
any reality that
visualizing
is
heat.
Yeah. So it was. There are these moments in this movie where you're like, that's too intelligent for the rest of this movie.
Yeah. Well, because otherwise it's out of nowhere that suddenly she can shoot fire when she never did before. And of course,
but it's all illusions. Yeah. And so that's like the one boss fight. And then the next mini boss fight is that they're on the train tracks trying to cross this ravine, and the witch realizes the train's coming, and she says, let them chase me. And she basically like has them chase her, and they're so focused on her that they don't realize that the bridge ends. And that's how they kill the main paladin girl. She goes right off the fucking train tracks.
Oh, it's absolutely the scene in Last Crusade where the guy in the tank goes off the ravine. I mean, it's almost framed exactly the same. Where they have the close-up of her going,
but it's just so
and,
anticlimactic because the Red Paladin was like the captain of the Paladin Guard and had lived so long, and you expected kind of more of a fight.
And this is in the last, I want to say, 20, 30 minutes, so she's made it way into the movie.
Yeah. And then while this is going on, there's all this intrigue in the city where the queen realizes she's pregnant with Drax's baby. So she kills the king and she becomes the sole emperor, at which point the church is thinking about maybe killing her. But then she decides, you know what, we should kill them. And she convinces the captain of the guard that because the paladins have so few people in the city, they outnumber them, they should just kill them. So then they kill the paladin priest, and they basically wipe out the church. So you're like, okay, so the paladins aren't a problem anymore. And you're kind of sitting there going, well, where is this story going now? Because the paladins at both end are dead. The guys in the city are gone, and the guys on the Doom train is gone. All you got left now is Mila and Drax getting to where there's a werewolf. And the whole time there's a clock going that shows you how close they are to the full moon, right? And then when they finally get there, now, I don't want to toot my own horn, but at one point during the movie, I said to Joe, Drax is the werewolf. And I think it was pretty early on. I said, I think she's going to fight Drax. I think Drax is the werewolf. And I don't know why, I don't know what made me feel that, but once I said that and I was kind of locked on it, I just felt like I was right at every step of the way. And you know what? I was right. Because we got to the end.
I kept going back and forth because the problem I had with it. No. Actually, there was more to it. The thing is, because so much of the middle of the movie is so conventional and paint by numbers, I said at one point, okay, wait a minute. How does this end? Because she's going to have to fight somebody, an aviator woman's dead, and he's going to have to fight somebody, and logically, he makes sense to be fighting the werewolf, because that's how these movies end. So when the woman died, then I was all over because I'm like, well, who's going to fight who?
Yeah, and it made sense.
And then when he kept saying, I think it's a bad idea. Nobody's ever survived. Don't go. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. It's got to be him. But up to that point, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, and they get to this place, and you basically realize that, he's the werewolf. And he basically says to her, I told you this is a bad idea. And he is, I'll give this, he does feel bad. Because at this point, he has begun to like her. And I have to say, I do enjoy, I didn't think I would, but I do enjoy the weird way they come to have this fondness for each other. Where, like, he really digs her, but not in a sex way. Like,
no, that's the weird part is we thought they were going to cross that line, but they never do. So it is more just like...
But he wants to be with her because he realizes that she's another monster. She's a witch. He's a werewolf. She's the only other supernatural creature that he knows. So when he gets to the end, to this final fight sequence, he says to her before he turns, he goes, you can't say no to me, which I will admit that's pretty clever. Where he turns that back on her. He goes, you can't say no to anybody. He goes, I want us to hunt together. He goes, I want us to be together. And she says, well, that has a price. And the thing is, the end of this movie is so much more clever than the rest of it. It's like this movie is 25% very clever and then 75% brain dead.
I'd say it's even less of a percentage clever, but the cleverness is so good that, and it comes at the beginning and the end.
But
you don't care.
Get it all at the end. So basically,
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing that's important about this is the biggest missed potential of this, because it's so clever at the end, is there's so much rudimentary, bare bones, nothing special action in the middle that isn't even that good of action, really, that instead of focusing on the cleverness, which is this idea that what happens if you have a character who cannot deny any request, who gets simultaneously opposing requests. Like, you could have made a whole bunch of scenes around that where they got into a situation, said, wait, I can grant your wish. And they did something. She's like, all right, this is going to be like a Constantine thing. The three of them don't know they've just wished each other to death. So we'll get out of this because I'm going to grant all their wishes. And their wishes are to tear each other's dicks off and then stab each other to death with them. Yay! And that's the end. Instead, it's just generic stuff until you get to the end.
Well, and the thing is, so he makes this request of her and she says, you know, every request has a price. And that's true. Everyone has paid. And what you realize is basically his price to pay is that once he turns into a werewolf, she's going to skin him, because bringing the pelt to the queen is what meets that the deal with the queen. She's got to meet everyone's deal, but much like a djinn, she needs to fuck everybody over. The only person she doesn't, I think, want to fuck over is Drax, but he's still there's still a price to pay. And she's still pissed at him that you know, he didn't just tell her she was the werewolf. I mean, she is fucking annoyed. And then they have a big fight. And there is a big fight sequence, and it sucks. I mean, like, I do like that it gets kind of almost metaphoric, where she kind of what do you call it? She zonks him with the eye thing, and then he thinks she's become a giant bird and she's got Wolverine claws. But the CG on Drax is fucking awful. I actually said this to my wife when I finished watching this movie. I said, you know what? I think this movie has some of the worst werewolf transformation that I have seen in a movie recently. I mean, most movies are bad. Like, most bad werewolf movies, they're bad werewolf movies, but they try so hard to make the werewolf transformations good. Whereas this movie, because it's just so CG, they didn't even try to do practical. They just did this awful CG generic thing to Drax that, I mean, it sucks. Like, can you disagree with that?
Oh, no. It's so bad. All right. Throughout the movie, there is I want to put this into proper context. That's why I was trying to like frame this correctly. So here it is. Throughout the movie, there is some very wonderful CG. There's some great scenery. There's a lot of middling CG. Like, people that are falling from that bus never look real. They always look like CG people, but they don't look ridiculously CG. You just know they're not real people.
No, there's a film over everything to kind of even it out.
Yes. So that stuff, you just sit there and go, okay, I know that's not real, but at least it's not insulting. But when you have your centerpiece monster look like something out of a PS2 game, like a cutscene from a PlayStation 2 game.
I'd say that, yeah.
It's that low level for your big climactic, dramatic fight. I said on the commentary, I'll say it again, they should have just put him in a rubber suit. He's big enough.
He's a big enough
guy. All
you
really had to do was put fur on him.
Fucking
it's not like
out,
sometimes.
Snout.
Yeah. Because a rubber suit can look bad if somebody doesn't have a lot of muscle mass. All the folding.
Do you remember Dog Soldiers?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, or even second Underworld. Underworld had great werewolves.
But here's another thing. I don't think you even have to do that. I don't think you even have to go that far. Have his clothes ripped and there's just fur sticking out. You put a set of fake teeth in him and give him a big hairpiece. He was bald anyway. Give him pointy ears because he's massive.
Yeah, I know. The only unique aspect to this is that, so she figured out early on that he was a werewolf, or halfway down the trip. So at one point when he got wounded, she dressed his wound. He passed out, and she dressed his wound, and she literally sewed silver into his body.
Yeah, to poison.
So when he turns into a werewolf, there is a neat sequence where he essentially starts to like bleed silver.
Yeah, I didn't realize what was happening at first. I really didn't know what was going on. And it's basically
that she's poisoned him with silver. So she does all this shit, and then at the point she zonks him, and then she has her claw hands, and she beats the shit out of him enough that when the moon gets obscured and he turns back and he's all beaten up, she's tied him down, which is when he basically requests that he wants to be with her, and that she has to meet his request. And she says, you won't like the price. Now, this whole end sequence is where it gets clever. So essentially, she skins Drax. And the next sequence you see is that she's riding back to the city with the fur all rolled up in the back, right? And she gets to the city, and she basically goes to the queen, and she says, here you go. She goes, "This is this is the werewolf. This is the skin of the werewolf." Oh no, actually, she gives it to what do you call it? She gives it to the lieutenant, the first in command,
Prince
who basically
Valiant,
is,
whatever.
yeah, who's in love with the queen, and he says, "This is the werewolf pelt. You have to. She has to. I think she has to smear her blood on it and then wear it before the end of the moon cycle or something like that, right?"
Before the moon cycle, yeah. The lunar
So he
cycle.
brings it to her, right? At which point, Gray Alice shows up and says, "I know that your baby is Drax's. Drax was the werewolf. That's his skin." And the queen basically loses her shit because she realizes that she asked Gray Alice to go skin the man that she was in love with, which is Drax. At which point she gets angry at... I can't remember why she gets angry with Prince Valiant. Because doesn't he say to her, "You have power enough, you don't need this," or doesn't she try to say that basically he orchestrated this?
Yeah,
the thing
she
is
says, you betrayed me. And he's like, "No, I was protecting you. And besides, you don't need any of this because you own everything now."
Yeah, and Gray Alice gets out of the deal with the first in command guy because she basically says, "You didn't really want me to fail. What you wanted was the queen. And now you have her." Yeah. And that's how she gets out of that, which is the whole, "I'm granting you what you actually wanted, not what you..."
Although I thought of something that she probably didn't even need to be that kind of sideways clever about it. She could have just said, no, the queen asked me to do this so she could be with Boyce. She can't be with Boyce, therefore I failed in that mission. Therefore I've fulfilled your terms. But
and there's a lot of I almost want to read the short story because I think there's probably a lot of clever ways that the witch finds herself getting out of psychologically these deals.
And that's what I'm saying is you could have done a couple of those in this movie where they got backed into a corner. Yeah. And then she said, "Well, you can kill us, but understand, I can grant any request. I cannot deny it. So if you kill me, I can't do it." And then they ask for things, and then she figures out how to fuck them over. And she tricks them
into basically destroying themselves.
Yes. Yeah. As opposed to guys fighting on a bus getting thrown down a CG valley.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So essentially, the queen loses her shit because she realizes that she's had the man. She believes that she's had the man killed that she was in love with. She kills the first in command, wiping out the captain of her guard. And then I think this is a weak point. This triggers a revolt in the city. So as Gray Alice is leaving, all these commoners are rushing into the palace to basically kill the palace guard, which I understand that they were trying to set up the fact that there's some dissension in the city. They just didn't do a good enough job. That wasn't foreshadowed well.
No. In fact, I don't even think I could necessarily honestly say they were trying. I don't think they tried.
The idea that the queen sent her...
you'd say that.
Yeah, but the thing is that the idea that the queen sent her to get the skin because she wanted to be with Drax, who she knew was a werewolf, but did not realize that she sent the witch to get the very skin of the man she was in love with. Right? And then the movie basically concludes with the witch in her lair, which I would have been really impressed if they ended it there, right? But the thing is, the opening of the movie is a very cut up Drax narrating that this is not a happy story, right? So
and I will say,
yeah,
I forgot by the end of the movie, but in the beginning of the commentary, I sit there and I go, "Are those stitches? Has he been stitched up?"
Yeah,
but the movie, I completely forgot. If I kept that in mind, I would have known right away he was the werewolf.
So I knew he wasn't dead. And so when he shows up in her lair, he is all stitched up and he's all fucked up. And she says to him, "I knew it wouldn't kill you." And he says, "Yeah, but you still skinned me alive, bitch," while he was in werewolf form. So, I mean, he's fairly fucking angry. But my understanding of it is that's the price. Because at the end of the movie, he basically tries to stab her, she tries to stab him, and they are equally matched. And then the movie ends with them basically riding off into the sunset together. And the whole idea is that he got what he wanted. He wanted to hunt with her. He wanted to be with her.
And honestly, I don't even think they had to go that far. When he said, "You skinned me," she could have simply said, "Yes, that was the only way we could hunt together. That's what you want, right?"
That's the price, yeah.
That's the end. You don't need to do the knives. I mean, I get it. It's dramatic, fine.
And in this, I know. Listen, this is the style, though. Anderson is. What did we say? He's like.
Oh boy, is it?
He's like a lighter version of the other director. What's his name? The guy who did 300.
Oh, he's Zack Snyder light.
Yeah, he's a Zack Snyder light. But yeah, so it's the ending of the movie has some really clever ideas in it, and if the rest of the movie had taken, if it had been more like that throughout the movie, I would have enjoyed it a lot. But like I said, the bulk of the movie is this very sort of generic, post-apocalyptic sort of Western violent movie, that has very questionable decisions, with moments of kind of like, ooh, Doom Train. But then you get to the end and you're like, oh, I like this. I like this cleverness. I like how this all shit ties together. And why wasn't there more of this? Throughout. So I don't know if it's a weakness of the short story, if the short story is set up like that, where it's like kind of mind numbing through the middle and then it's very clever at the end, or if that was just the way that the short story got translated, because I know the director did the screenplay based on the short story. So I'll go back to what I was saying. There's Resident Evil, which is great, and there's Resident Evil 2, which sucks, and Resident Evil 3 is kind of right in the middle. This movie is right in the middle. And honestly, like I said, all you have to do is just think of it as Resident Evil in the Lost Lands, and it makes total sense. It still does, because, I mean, Alice's powers are so vague and kind of come and go in the movies that I could see her in a post-apocalyptic future becoming some kind of weird witch. Her name is still Alice.
I said in the commentary, I'm glad I watched it once. I'll never watch it again. And that's exactly what I would say. This is worth watching once.
I agree with you.
Yeah. It's not a terrible movie. It's a movie you will laugh at probably at points. We did many times.
We had a good laugh through most of it.
Yep, we did. And then the ending saves it from being...
And
up until the ending, it was completely and utterly forgettable. The ending makes it worth discussing.
I will say this for this movie, though, and maybe this is my feelings. This movie does not change my view of Batista. I still like him. I will still watch movies that Batista's in. But this movie did not make me think less of him, right? Whereas I do think that this was a bad performance of Mila's. She is very wooden throughout this movie. Like, the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, she's worse than usual in this. Like,
I think they're both bad, just in different ways.
Oh,
Batista at no point feels like he's in this movie. He feels like he's laughing at this movie.
He's having too good a time.
Yeah, but that's just as bad as being wooden.
No, but I guess what it is that I don't expect more from Batista. I mean, that's bad, but like he's done a lot of bad.
No, he's better movies. He's good in movies. He is legitimately good. I'm not going to say he's a great actor, but he's certainly probably
no. But if you look,
he's one of the better actors from wrestler conversions there are.
If you see the movies he's been pumping out lately, they're kind of just generic action movies. I mean, he did that spy movie with the girl recently, a sequel, like
I liked him in Glass Onion. Glass Onion's one of his better movies, I think.
It is, and that's the thing, is that when he's in the right movie with the right director, yes, and I give him credit that he's tried a lot of different stuff. But what I mean is, this movie did not make me think less of Batista. Like I said, I watched it and I was like, hey, you know what? He tried doing an Anderson movie, and he did what he could with it. But like, I've seen Mila do better movies. I've seen Mila do better acting.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with that at all. Again, this isn't even a movie that I would rewatch to see her. It's not. I don't think anybody is good in this. I don't think anyone's good in this.
I normally like,
no, but you know what? I'll tell you what. That part doesn't bother me in this, because I think it keeps the Drax stuff from going over the line. I think that's one of the ways. It would be so easy to sexualize her, because as it is, they're talking about whores and bitches and witches and all. And so if she was like in a skin tight bikini witch, it becomes a little bit transparent. You know what I mean? It's a little bit like gross.
But the fact that the fact that they didn't do it though, it's still, I find it amusing.
Oh,
They
no,
never listen. They never kiss. I was impressed by that. They never had any kind of physical, other than like comforting each other in times of like literally they hug each other when they're
and
feeling
she puts
like
her forehead to his, which is more of a kind of companion move.
There's no sexualized aspect. I thought that was good, right? And the fact that
a couple times we thought that it was going to happen, and it didn't.
And they did, yeah. And the fact that they don't sexualize her, I was surprised by that. Because normally Anderson likes to sexualize the hell out of his wife.
No, in fact, that haircut desexualizes
Oh, God,
her.
it's a terrible hairdo, isn't it?
She's just wearing all this loose kind of gowning. She has terrible facial tattoos.
Yes.
Listen,
it is mostly a bad movie.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, at one point she runs into this old woman who seems to be an old witch, like the archetype of the old Disney witch.
Yeah.
And the funny part is what they did to Mila in this movie is as close as they could get her to that without actually putting her in prosthetics. They desexualized her as much as is possible with a woman this beautiful. So they tried. I'll give them that. But I agree. Her performance is nothing. Bautista's is better because, he's having a blast. But I can't say I think any less of anybody in this because I think they knew what they were making.
Honestly,
they were making a Polish tax shelter film.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I mean, what was the rebate films or something like that?
It literally says like 30% rebate at the end of the movie if you make a movie in Poland. It fucking says it.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 30% cash back or something. It's the craziest goddamn thing because we read it and I'm like, look, it says that.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. It is.
But again, as something that killed an hour 40 minutes, perfectly fine.
I would not have watched this if Joe had not brought it to me. But this is exactly the type of movie that I like to watch with Joe.
But you know what's funny? And I would have apologized if not for the ending. I would have said, I'm sorry we watched this.
No, not at all. Because the thing is, you didn't know how bad it was going to be. And sometimes it's great to find out together just how awful a movie can be. And also, I consider this movie to be good bad, not bad bad. Bad bad, you watch a movie and you're like, this is terrible. This sucks. I don't know why we spent any time here.
It was entertaining.
But good bad is when you watch a movie and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? What's going on here?
It's true.
And though generic at times, there was a doom train. There's some really good line delivery. I mean, there are times you watch them and you're like, is that what I was amused. I don't ever need to see it again. And I wouldn't have watched it if I didn't see it with you.
We were bored.
So what's the thing? So. My review of this movie would be if you want to watch a good bad movie with a kind of clever ending that you have to think about a little bit to see how the witch managed to fuck everybody over. Watch it with friends. Drink a little.
I was going to say, my one thing I would say is, if you're going to watch it alone, be prepared. Have your phone nearby, have your iPad nearby, have a book nearby.
What do they call that? A secondhand watch or something like that?
Second screen or second
screen? A second
movie?
screen watch. Yeah. Yes, that.
Yeah, that's.
Oh
this
man, is that what this is? Is this a second screen movie?
If not for the ending, I would say yes.
Oh shit, that's funny.
Because at one point you said, "Oh man, we were talking over it. I missed some stuff." So the fact that exists at all means it's not purely disposable.
I'm such a nerd, though, that we talked over something and I missed it, and then I went into the wiki and read the plot thing that we had missed. Because I was like, wait a minute.
I had heard the one part that we needed, so I had actually heard it.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is, a completely second screen movie, that necessity would not exist. You would know everything.
Watch this movie with friends. Make fun of it.
Ready Player One is a second screen film. Who fucking cares? You can look away, look back, whatever. You get it. It's all the same.
I wonder what the most generic
digital fucking smear
second screen movie would be. Curious.
Oh, that's you know what? That's an audience question. What's the most second screen movie you've ever watched? There's a good audience question.
I'm just curious if there's a general idea about that. What is the most common?
I mean, it's probably a movie we've never even heard of.
Interesting. So, oh my God, this is funny. So, IMDb has a list of the best movies to second screen, and I'm telling you right now, I disagree with most of this list. Do you want their top 10?
Give me the top 10.
Okay, so this is IMDb.com's best movies to second screen, right?
Okay.
Number 1, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
Wrong. Keep going.
Fuck that. Terminator 2.
Wrong. Keep going.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, I'm okay
Fuck
with
you.
that one.
I love that movie.
I love it too, but do you really need to be looking at it the whole time?
Anchorman is the only movie on this list that I would totally
agree with
ignore.
that.
Yeah. But Fast
I
Times at
wouldn't even watch
Ridgemont
that.
High, I fucking love that movie.
I could look at my phone for some of that.
Shaun of the Dead.
No, wrong.
Spirited Away.
Wrong. This is a stupid list now.
Hold on. Jurassic Park.
Wrong.
Elf, which I'm middling about that movie.
I'm fine with that because I don't like Will Ferrell that much. Go ahead.
The Matrix.
Wrong.
So I don't understand what the fuck is up with this list.
Yeah, I agree with you on almost all of it, as far as being wrong.
Best movies to second screen? That makes no sense to me.
Anchorman and Elf are the only two I would agree with.
Like, hold on, I'm jumping on to...
In totality. I said yes on Ferris Bueller because I'm not the biggest Ferris Bueller fan. That's just me. And then, what was the other one I said? Fast Times? I can ignore some of that.
I don't agree with a lot of these movies that people are citing
most
as
of them,
second screen.
most of them, yeah.
No, but like I'm just scanning through like what people are saying on like Reddit things and stuff like that, and I'm kind of surprised by some of these movies. Like, you know what? Anything by Adam Sandler to me is a second screen movie.
I'm with you there.
You know, as far as I'm concerned.
Because you don't really need the visuals. I mean, honestly,
like,
you could say that about a lot of Kevin Smith, too. Do you really need the visuals, or do you just need to hear the jokes?
But I mean, The Matrix? Fuck you.
No. Lord of the Rings, that's stupid. I mean, these are just dumb. These are almost trolling suggestions. Seriously, that feels like a list just to make people react to it, because it just can't be serious.
Yeah,
or these people have never seen these movies, or have only seen clips of them and think they're boring.
You know the only time that those movies would be second screen movies for me is if you've already seen them 3 or 4 times, and they're like, there's a difference between a second screen movie on a first watch and a second screen movie on like a 10th watch. Because I've seen Lord of the Rings Fellowship so many times that I'm probably at that point where I can watch it on a second screen, because a huge amount of that movie.
Different there. I don't there are almost no movie. My wife will tell you, I don't look at my phone unless unless I spot somebody. I'm like, oh, is that the actor from this? And I just check. But otherwise,
when I
watch movies, I'm fucking watching movies.
I know, but when I lived alone and I was doing my 2 master's degrees, right? I had no TV. I had a DVD player. And what I used to do when I was by myself was I used to put movies on in the background, so that it wouldn't be so...
Okay, but that's not really what...
And
that's
for
a different
me,
scenario
it
than
wasn't
what
a second screen movie so much as it was I'm studying and I have a movie on in the back. And not in the background, right in front of me. But...
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've seen Lord of the Rings so many times that what I was going to say is a part of that movie occupies part of my mind. So even if I am not directly looking at that movie, even if I am reading the news casually while that movie's on in the background, right? I'll have the movie on specifically because I don't want it, I like to have kind of like the noise and the kind of welcoming color of it.
Yeah.
But I know what's going on. And any moment I look up, I know what's going on because I've seen the movie so many god times.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to study to any type of movie. I would have to study to audio only.
Well, it's the type of studying that you're doing at that time. I can't do certain kinds of studying with certain types of media.
No, I couldn't study anything with a visual because I would
really?
Look at it.
Oh no, I can ignore it.
Mm-mm. No, I can't. It has to be audio. If I'm gonna get the material with something in the background, it has to be audio. It cannot be
Interesting.
visual. Unless it's literally just like colors, but it can't be something that's got visual intention to it. No, I
don't mind ignoring certain movies because I feel like I have given them so much attention in the past that I don't feel like I'm selling them short by half watching them on like the 20th time I've seen them.
Anything I am even willing to watch in the background, I'm gonna watch. It's just how I am. So
you know
it has
what?
to be an audio
I
thing.
don't consider that to be a bad thing. I think in this day and age,
I'm just saying it's just how I'm architected.
I think that, listen, when you're going to watch a movie, you should watch it.
Let me tell you this. This is how bad it is. At work, I often have, I have 2 tabs always open at work, depending on what I'm doing. One is an audio-only tab of a podcast or like NPR, or just something that's background. And then I have YouTube. Now, if I'm running something where I can't do anything with it for a while, then I'm watching YouTube. But I cannot watch YouTube as a background audio. It will start to bother me within about 3 seconds. Because I'm like,
Interesting,
no,
yeah.
there's unless it's somebody who doesn't have a visual. But if they're
you and
actually
I-
talking about like
yeah.
a movie or something,
No, I
I got to
see.
see
You-
what they're talking about.
You and I have a different. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
but we're
so I will
using
switch. I bounce between
Yeah.
those tabs depending on what
But
I'm
we're
doing.
using it
and it's like,
differently
back and forth.
as well. I mean, that's the other thing.
Oh, yeah,
I wouldn't do that to a movie that I'd only seen once. I would do that to a movie that I've seen so many times that it occupies, like I said, occupies a part of my brain. It is permanently with me.
The problem with any type of movie like that is I wouldn't be able to study because I'd fall asleep. There are things that I can fall asleep to, but they will kill me.
Well,
like
not
even if
middle
I'm
of the
trying to
day.
look at something, I'll hear it and I'll go. Boom,
Are you mean
and
like
that's it.
middle of the day? You'll be sitting there studying and you'll be like,
Oh
well, I
yeah,
can-
apps. If I and there
Interesting.
are certain things that if I'm not directly watching them, their background presence puts me to sleep.
Oh wow, look at you. I mean, I
Like
wish I had
Red
that.
Dwarf is one of them. If I'm going to watch Red Dwarf, I have to do it either when I'm doing nothing else, or at night if I want to go to sleep, and I'll just put one on and I'll start hearing Rima, and I'm just I'm out, done, I'm just gone. Yeah,
Well, there you go.
it's just how I'm built. So.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we are
Well,
all
I
unique
want
creatures.
to apologize to everybody. It's kind of a shorter show than usual, so I'm sorry about that. But
I have no way of seeing this because we're on the Zoom. How
3
long
hours
have
20.
we- What? You know, this is what happens when I have reviews. 'Cause I think the first 2 hours was me talking about all my dumb shit.
That's okay. I don't care. Whatever. We've
so
done
this
short
is-
shows.
This
That's
is, this is why I don't normally come with so much. But I just, honestly, it was just by chance and luck that I have as many things I want to talk about.
It will work out fine because since there's so many reviews, people can stop and start at the review point. It's not just us rambling
Oh,
steady
yeah.
for 3.5
Yeah.
hours. That's tougher to stop. As soon as you say, all right, now I'm going to talk about this, they can stop and say, all right, I'll be back in a day or two. I fucking had enough of you. You know, which is fine. That's ideally, that's how it should be, is chapters without calling them chapters, like a book. You can stop and start at your leisure. So on that note, everybody, we're going to shut up. And you have lots of stuff to digest, lots to digest there. So you have plenty of things to pick from or avoid. And since we couldn't find a decent second screen list, by all means, feel free to tell us what your second screen films are. I'd actually be curious what people come up with. So on that note, thanks for hanging around for this long. And we'll talk to you again, probably not for as long, but you never know, next week. Enjoy your weekend. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow at Ozone Nightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.